Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Chairman.
My last meeting of a chair. So before... There'll be some people who are happy and some who are not, so thank you very much. Can we please start, as always, with our prayers?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we ask you to bless the work of this council. We give you thanks for the work of the chairman in these past years, for the dedication, for the leadership, and putting the good of all first. And we pray for the incoming chairman, that he too may be blessed by you and guided by and strengthened by the Holy Spirit. We ask this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
O God, whose Son cared for the welfare of everyone and went about doing good through your grace, grant us the imagination and perseverance to create in this county a just society. Make us agents of your compassion to the suffering and deprived, the persecuted and oppressed, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks at this time for the coronation of King Charles III and Queen Camilla, that they may serve the country dutifully under your guidance, supported by your Spirit. And we pray for all who are under authority under him, that they too may work for the good of all. We ask this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. I invite you to join with me in saying the Lord's Prayer in its traditional form. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, Chairman.
Father, before you go, can I thank you for your support over the last 2 years as my chaplain? It has been wonderful, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Secret.
Please be seated. Oh. Okay, once again, good morning. We'll go straight into the agenda. Item 1, election of chairman of the County Council. May I have members' nominations for the election of a chairman of the County Council? On this occasion, it gives me great pleasure to nominate Councillor Philip Hewitt to be our next chairman. My reasons for that are: I've known Phil for many, many years. He's married to Aid, and he's been the best vice chairman anyone could ever wish for. We've worked close together, and what's more important, we've had each other's trust. Phil is a Walsall boy who, throughout his working life, never owned a car, always holding sales positions where a car was always provided for some of the biggest companies in the country. On his retirement, he held a Lucas Aid contract at GSK, the world's largest sporting drink. The only other larger drink manufacturer is Coke or Pepsi. So what a great company to work for, and what a position to hold. I always call him the pop man. And when he got elected, he was actually on holiday. And these officers who was going to be his mentor, they said, "Tell me a bit about him." I said, "Oh, we worked for Corona, he sold pop." And they actually thought he just sold pop door to door. So you've always got to get in first, haven't you? Phil is a community champion. He's run and managed junior football clubs and community groups for well over 30 years. He supports his local church in so many ways and always never tries to miss a Sunday service. Whether he'll be able to keep that up now he's been the new chairman, or with your vote to the new chairman, I don't know. These are the good points. I'll now go on to the bad points. He's a West Bromwich Albion supporter. And of course, as a Wolverhampton supporter, it's our local rivalry. But what I will say, even though he's passionate about them, as vice chair and chairman, we agreed if you ever agree to go to a function or an event, you go to it. There's no backing out. So on one Friday evening, I was on holiday in Tenerife, and the match for West Bromwich was changed from the Saturday to the Friday. Phil had already agreed he was going to Keele University on my behalf, and he went to Keele University. That really does show dedication to the job for me. His commitment has always been 100%, and therefore I have no second thought about proposing Phil Hewitt to be the chairman of Staffordshire County Council for the next year. Do we have a seconder?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm chuffed to be able to second Councillor Hewitt to be chair. I met Phil about 5 years ago, and it was at a parish council with a fellow councillor, Councillor Thompson. Whilst we were there, we were complaining about a local issue, and Phil watched us carefully and thought, what's going on? Took us to one side afterwards and said, stop complaining and do something about it. Come and work with us. Come and see what we can do, and let's make our community better. And that, for me, speaks volumes about Phil. He is about his community, his residents. He's still recovering from walking miles at local campaigns that we've been delivering leaflets for. And he's always there for you. He'll stand up, offer his advice and friendship. He's extremely loyal and offers genuine opinions and very trustworthy. But I did think you all might like to know as well that Phil's a little bit of a keen cook. Loves watching cookery programmes and has a little go in the kitchen. However, doesn't always go to plan. Whilst baking a loaf the once, lovely loaf turned out fantastic, he lost his spoon. To which aid he found in the loaf the next day when they cut it up. So, if Phil invites you for any food or whilst he's arranging anything culinary for the council, let's just check for the bread before we eat it. Congratulations, Phil. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, it has been proposed and seconded that Councillor Phil Hewitt be appointed as Chairman of the County Council for the ensuing year. Is that agreed? Councillor Hewitt, it gives me great pleasure to put the chain around your neck and invest you as the Chairman of Staffordshire County Council.
Try and keep the place a little tidier.
He's now in the big chair.
Thank you. Never miss an opportunity to be quiet, Mr. I thought we'd get off to the right start. Good morning, all. And I will say a very few words, but I think it's important to thank the previous chairman for doing such a fabulous job. And we've been firm friends. We were friends before this started, and after the 2 years we remained friends, which I believe can be quite unique. So that was fabulous. But when I took my seat 6 years ago, somewhere where Bernard, I think, is sitting there, I must admit we had Michael Greatrex in the chair, and I sat there, and to say I hadn't got a clue would be an understatement. It was a big shock to win for me. I have to say it was even bigger shock to the guy that I beat. But when I sat there and I saw Michael Greatrex sit on this chair, and he just owned the chair, didn't he? Those remember Michael, and he just owned it, and he immediately went into the role. And I thought, could I ever do that? Could I ever be as good? And I was always impressed. But then it's worth mentioning, so I've had 3 chairmen, and the other one was Kath. We're extremely fond of Kath. And Kath had the unbelievable issue of COVID. So instead of sitting in this chair, Kath sat in her dining room, didn't she? I presume it was a dining room, Kath. So Kath sat in her dining room. I'll have a glass of water. And at the time I thought, could I ever do that? And she has a bigger dining room than me, so that might be a slightly challenge. But I was so impressed, Kath, that you did that. You run the county council from your home, or you run the county council meetings from your home. It was so impressive because you never missed a beat. And then, of course, my good friend Paul, who's brought real dignity to the chair throughout. And if I have one thing to aspire for Paul, it's his sheer work ethic. He's literally covered the county from top to bottom. He's given up all his weekends for nearly 2 years. And if I could be half as good or half a work ethic as Paul and Susie, I would be quite pleased. So my summary is the bar has been set incredibly high by the 3 chairmen, the 3 chair that I've been privileged to work under. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to serve, and I will do my absolute best. Yes, I'm going to do that, yeah. Okay. So, my next job is to present my consort with her badge, which is fantastic, my wife, Adrienne. And of course, present Mr. and Mrs. Snape with their badges as well as past chairman. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I ask Paul to say a few words as outgoing chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me be the first to congratulate you on aid of achieving this great honour. So thank you very much. I know you will have a great year. When you take over as chairman, you're following many great chairmen, as Phil has just said. The wall outside has pictures of chairmen going back to about 1780. So you know on a daily basis you walk past it. You're not the first to hold the office. And there are many people who probably did a lot better job than I ever could think of doing. But as I would like to pay first praise to Kath, I served her as a vice chairman. And Kath, your support to me as vice chairman particularly through the COVID times and stuff, was wonderful. And I always thought, will I fill your shoes? I hope I've had a go at doing it. So thank you for your support throughout the time. To Phil, my Vice Chairman, we've had a great time together up and down the county, and to Aid, we've enjoyed every minute of it, so thank you. To Mike Bradbury, my lead officer, who has said, Mr Chairman, at times, you can't do that, but I've still done it. To Deb Cox and to Kirsty, who was predecessor to Deb, who've kept my diary, made sure I was at the right place at the right time, which was not always easy. To my 2 drivers, chauffeurs, to Roger, and sorry, to Roger and to Ed, who have just made life so simple. Prepare the way when you go into somewhere, make sure you're there on time, make sure you're dressed appropriately, and make sure you get home safely. To the Lord Lieutenancy, I know they're not here today, but to Sean Winfrey and to Gemma, our officers work so close with them. A lot of the functions we go to, the Lord Lieutenant or the High Sheriff is there. So it's important that they all work together. What a year to be chairman. We had the Platinum Jubilee first. Then we had the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Every chair hopes they will pass the monarch on to the next chairman, but unfortunately we didn't. I did the proclamation for the new king in Stafford town centre on the Sunday afternoon, where the Lord Lieutenant was there. The High Sheriff read out the proclamation, and I gave the 3 cheers for new king. What a great thing for a council house kid to do from Wensfield. And finally, I'd like to thank my wife, Susie, for her support throughout. At this time, I normally get a big bunch of flowers and take it over to her. But on this occasion, there's no flowers. Because she said to me, I don't want the flowers, I want a new hairdryer. So she can have a choice of hairdryer instead of the flowers. It'll probably last a lot longer as well. So, and then finally, to every member of this council, for the support you've given me throughout my 2 years. We've had a laugh, we've had fun. I've had to be on my guard the whole way through, but you've now got a new chairman who will do a better job than I did. Just all I ask is, can you please support the chairman? And thank you to everybody. Thank you.
Right. Good morning again. Item 2 on the agenda, apologies. Are there any apologies for absence?
Mr Chairman, we have received apologies from the following members. Jack Abrahams, Julia Jessel, Jason Jones and Samantha Thompson.
Are there any further apologies? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Councillor Jill Waring.
Councillor Jill Waring. And Councillor Trowbridge.
Chairman, very many congratulations on your new role, Chairman.
Thank you.
Apologies, I have to leave the meeting early. Sadly, I've got to attend a friend's funeral this morning, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Does any member wish to declare any interest? No. Item 4 on the agenda, confirmation of the minutes of the council meetings held on the 16th of March and the 13th of April. I move that the minutes of the council meetings are held on the 16th of March and the 13th of April 2023 be signed as a true record. Is that agreed? Item 5 on the agenda, the election of the Vice Chairman of the County Council. We now move to members' nominations for the appointment of the Vice Chairman of the County Council. May I have members' nominations, please? Councillor Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to propose Councillor Colin Greatrix. Having had the pleasure for many years to have served on scrutiny panels chaired by Colin Greatrix, I have found him to be professional at all times and a very, very fair-minded man. He always ensures everyone has the opportunity to comment or challenge. His valuable chairmanship of the MTFS group clearly exemplified his competence, and when coupled with his vast experience as an elected member in Lichfield, I have no hesitation in proposing Councillor Greatrix as Vice Chair. And I know, together with our new Chairman, we are in safe hands. Thank you.
Yeah, it's before I say something about Colin, I'd just like to say that in my 12 years as a county councillor, I've served under many chairmen, and I have to say Paul's exemplified that position of chair, and I've been pleased to support him and Susie on many of the functions. It's quite a trek from the Stafford to Mullins to Cannock, but I must admit we've always had a good night, and I hope we have many more good nights with yourself, Phil, and good luck in your new role. But it's an hard act to follow, but I'm sure you'll do well. As for Colin, I've known Colin now for 6 years, and I've served under him on the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and I've always been astounded how well and professionally he runs that committee, because they're all chairs on that committee, and he handles us all very well. He's very, very strong character, and I think to do the role of chairman and vice chairman of this authority, he needs to be professional, he needs to be strong, and I'm sure it's in safe hands, and I wish him all the very best. He'll be an excellent support for yourself, Phil. Thank you.
Nominations. It has been proposed and seconded that the Councillor Greatrix be appointed as Vice Chairman of the County Council for the ensuing year. Is that agreed? Mrs. Greatrix. I've put this one on a few times, but I'm not going to take the chance to very long. Yeah, I'm going to call you in a second. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Making a few arrangements. Congratulations, Colin. Can you say a few words?
Right. Morning, all. I think it's probably best to start with thanking the two proposers and seconders. It's a wonderful thing to be chairing a meeting and having so many ideas. And I think, as has been said, quite often it's a matter of tempering some of the views that we get at meetings. But I think we have got some vibrant members of committee, and it's always pleasant to chair it because, as I say, the quality is there to, if you like, control as part of the meeting. I think the other thing I'd have to say in recognising this role on behalf of the county is that I know 2/8 of the county extremely well. I'll start with the fact that I've got 30 years in East Staffordshire and then 30 years with Lichfield District. I know I don't look old enough. There was a bit of an overlap between the two. I had 30 years in the brewing industry, which is one of our 4 pillars. And I'm always keen to mention Staffordshire and how important it is in terms of its history and its 4 pillars, as I've had explained to me. So I've actually worn one of my original brewing ties for when I worked for Molson Coors in Burton-on-Trent. So this is one of the brand ties that we were wearing at the time, and it's over 30 years old. But we then moved to Lichfield, and I'm very pleased to be reminding the Stokies that there is another city within the county, often forgotten that it is a city. And one of the things I will say is that I've had the opportunity, while being a civic with Lichfield District, to go and see the other 6/8 of the county, and I will endeavour to make sure that I get to know the other 6/8 as well as I know the first 2/8 of the county. The last thing I will say is that I listened carefully to what Councillor Snape and Councillor Hewitt said about trust, and I certainly think that that's one of the things that I would like to replicate working with you, Chairman. I think I've known you from when you first joined the council, and I liken your attitude to calling a spade a shovel. And I think we can get on well because I think we will trust each other and get on well in our duties. Thank you.
Item 6 on the agenda, the Chairman's correspondence. Surprisingly, after 28 minutes, I have no correspondence yet. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Item 7 on the agenda, which is a statement of the Leader of the Council. Councillor Alan White, will you move consideration, please, for the statement?
Am I on? Yes. And I understand there were some problems with the microphones. Mr. Chairman, congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to your new role. I'm sure you will carry it off wonderfully over the next couple of years.
We all hope so.
I move consideration of the Leader's statement.
Thank you. Item 1 on the Leader's statement. Staffordshire means back to business, the oral update. Councillor David Smith.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm absolutely delighted to inform the Council that in my division we have just landed a major contract from BP to provide 20 EV charging units together with facilities that go with them. In addition to that, we have also landed the regional headquarters for Bloor Homes. And also, we are submitting, well, not we, but the developer. I feel very personal about it. The developer is submitting an application for 10 acres of high-tech manufacturing units that will be quite unique to the county. So I'm absolutely delighted about what's going on in my patch, and I look forward to seeing 20 vehicles all being happily charged and the whole thing developing, and perhaps within the next couple of years seeing some things coming out of the ground. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Nigel Yates.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I read this report with interest, and I would like to say I took a diversionary route to Stafford via the Chatley Valley, and that's one of the prominent developments which the County Council is involved in. And I have to say, it looks very, very impressive. And there's certainly an awful lot of work, awful lot of groundwork, and it is clearing up a post-industrial site, which I certainly applaud. The one appeal I would like to say, though, is that the issue with these developments, it's absolutely fantastic for Newcastle and the Lyme and the whole of North Staffordshire, but it is a little bit like an out-of-town development with shopping, and we've seen what's happened with town centres when we've developed out-of-town shopping and things have moved away. What I would like to make an appeal is that in the local plan, in the Staffordshire Moorlands, We've got development sites coming up within the towns and specifically within Biddulph where we've got a small amount of council-owned from Staffordshire Mullins District Council point of view and the access land via Staffordshire County Council point of view. And I would like to make sure that Staffordshire, and have an assurance that Staffordshire County Council is fully on board with helping to develop those sites and deliver those small business units, at least from a starter unit point of view. What we don't want to see is these smaller towns just being a commuter town to drive the money and drive the investment outside of these town developments and town centres. So, yeah, fully applaud what's going on, absolutely fantastic. But let's not leave the small towns behind, and let's have a commitment to sort out little things like adopting roads which are being built by the highways but are still waiting for adoption on the Wharf Road site in Biddulph, and making sure that collectively we have a plan moving forward. Thank you.
Councillor Sohid Hussain.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to pass my congratulations to you and Vice Chairman-elect, and also I don't want to miss the opportunity to pass my tribute to the past chairman. And one of the significant things we had, that your door was always open. I hope it should be the case in your chamber as well, whenever we need. And am I right to say you are the chairman in crisis when we run the COVID and everything? Thank you. Mr. Chairman, may I just also say that I welcome this job creation of 29,000 jobs in the new county. However, as we believe, the small businesses are backbone of our economy. They create jobs. In reality, Mr. Chairman, in our town and district, if we go to the high street, shops after shops are shut down, toilet signs, and with due respect to charitable organizations, they are just only operated some voluntary organizations in there, the shops. Otherwise, many, many shops, they're struggling to keep their door open. I would be grateful if the county council and the portfolio holder can give us some insight how he is going to weather the storm and keep those business open for our towns. Thank you.
Councillor Jeremy Pert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and can I congratulate you on UNAID on your new role, and to thank also the Chairman. I want to reflect on paragraph 3, because Pets at Home is a company that we often talk about, but actually its size and scale and its impressive track record is something we don't always talk about. It is an organisation that delivers to individuals' homes. It has 457 stores across the country. It has 443 veterinary practices. It turns over £1.3 billion. And yet they chose to come to Stafford Borough to site their head office and their new 670,000 square foot national distribution centre. And in so doing, they invested £70 million of their money into our local economy. They've already started employing people. They have 300 people on their workforce already. They're adding 40 new people each and every week until they get to their target of 750. They are the equivalent of Tesco's in pet care. Their track record is immense. They are currently an FTSE 250 company with aspirations within the next 10 years to be in the FTSE 100. So I was delighted to be alongside the Chief Exec of Pets at Home, Lisa McGowan, and the Managing Director of Stafford, the developers, Daniel Gallagher, a couple of weeks ago to be at the opening and ribbon cutting of that new distribution centre and investment. What it says clearly is that Stafford Borough and Staffordshire is open for business. And in just 3 years, from conception through to delivery, that whole investment has been rolling through. And don't forget, we've had COVID in the middle of it. But I think what it also says is that Stafford and Staffordshire is uniquely placed in the country to be a great place to live and work and thrive. And where Pets at Home leads, if you excuse the pun, where Pets at Home leads, others will follow. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Mark Winnington.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations on your ascension to the big chair.
Thank you.
Just paragraph 3 again. Obviously, it's a little paragraph, but it's got a lot of clout about it. Again, I'll echo what Councillor Pert has said about Pets at Home and what a fantastic development that is. Indeed, the whole of Prime Point and the fact that connectivity to the M6 and partly to the A34 is incredibly important. That paragraph 3, we should really applaud, because there's something in the region of 9,000 jobs in that paragraph. And just a quick one, when it was under my portfolio, there was a lot of concern about the West Midlands interchange. Could we have some reassurance, please, that as the interchange starts, the agreement was that we should have a rail freight put in after the first 10-20% of the building was done. Is that still on board? Thank you.
There's a few people waving at me. We are having 1 or 2 problems with the system. Generally, it seems to be working okay, but I'm aware that 1 or 2 of you have asked to speak and you don't want to. So if that happens, your name comes up here. We'll just work it out as we go along. Councillor Philip White.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and congratulations on your appointment, and congratulations, Colin, on your appointment too. It's good to have a report like this that touches all the points of the compass. So if you look at the activity here, and I won't reprise it all because we've heard some interesting local details from people about things in their areas, but north, south, east and west, there is enormous economic activity and investment going on everywhere in our county. That is rightly mostly private sector led, but we're playing our part in that, as is government, and we are benefiting from around £200 million of investment into our town centres through the Town Deals, Future High Street funds and Levelling Up funds, which is massive investment, and it demonstrates our capacity as a place to go out and win that investment, both from the private sector and from the public sector. But then the key thing is that we do all work together here at the County Council, in our districts and boroughs, as partners to make sure that that's delivered on the ground. I'm not going to go into too much of the fine detail of things that people have raised today, but what I will go back to is our priorities as a county council. So we have town centres as a priority. We work with all of our districts and boroughs on their projects in town centres in terms of regeneration and growth. Small businesses, start-ups and step-ups are another one of our priorities. So we are very engaged with that. We're very interested in enterprise space, where that's not currently present. So we're sat not too many metres away from the Shire Hall, which is now almost fully occupied, and with a very active hot desking service as well. Just on the point of regeneration, also, it's nice to see the paviers being laid in the market square outside, partly funded by this authority. So we're very engaged with that, very interested in the moorlands, which I have to say, I think is an area that lacks enterprise space. So I am interested in that, wherever that lands, whether that's Biddulph or whether that's in Leek or Cheadle or all of them. And our overall priority is investment for jobs and high quality, highly skilled, highly paid jobs. We have, as an authority, been instrumental in creating over 40,000 jobs over the last 13 years in this county, working with those partners in the private sector. There's more of that to do, and particularly it's making sure that the people we have in our county who would like jobs and the many employers who would like to employ those people, that they're able to match up together, particularly with the skills that they need. And to that end, we're out to consultation at the moment with our new employment and skills strategy. I hope that all colleagues will take a look at that and contribute if they feel it's appropriate. But that is the key to me, because all of the activity we're talking about, really it's about making sure that our people can lead good lives, and that generally means having a good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lady Johnny Comacki. Moving to item 2 on the leader statement, which is the capital programme for schools. He came in. Sorry, I'm aware that somebody pressed, but he came in after the cabinet member had spoken. Moving to item 2 on the leader statement, which is the capital programme for schools 2023-24. Do I have any speakers on this? Councillor Nigel Yates.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. And apologies for earlier. I didn't welcome you both into your post a little bit naivety, man, so thank you very much. Yes, very pleased to see this, and I see the reference to SEND, and I've spoken to the Cabinet member regarding SEND and SEND provision in the Stafford Moorlands. We're all a little bit remote, and transport is an issue with that. What I would like to report is that we've established a SEND parents group, which is working very well, and it's following on from, obviously, the meeting which we had together. And that's given a lot of support, and hopefully that will allow a little bit of one voice and one coordination. And I welcome the fact that there's a capital programme. We know the situation with underperforming schools, certainly within my town, and perhaps the scope of incorporating more sort of SEND facilities specifically there to make them a lot more sustainable and bring them up. So I look forward to hearing the forward plan going forward with regard to this investment, with regard to SEND, and with regard to the provision specifically in the Staffordshire Moorlands, but Staffordshire as a whole, as a collective. Thank you.
Councillor Charlotte Atkins.
Thank you, Mr Chairman, and congratulations on your appointment, and the Vice Chair as well. And I very much hope you have an excellent year. I'm sure you will. Sorry for the confusion earlier. I merely pressed my button because Councillor Hussein's button didn't seem to be working. But anyway, to get back to the capital programme for schools, it's becoming clear in Leek that we can only really sustain one high school. And ideally, that would mean building a new school on a new site and freeing up 2 prime sites for alternative uses. So what I want to know is really how we can use the capital programme to facilitate that move, because it is a massive move in a 3-tier system to have a new high school. But it's clear from the travails of Leek High School, which is losing pupils, that we really must move to a one high school situation in Leek. And the only way that can be done effectively is by building a new school on a new site to free up 2 excellent sites for other development. Thank you.
Councillor Mark Winnington.
Thank you, Chairman. Speaking as a ward member there, and also I know that Caroline Trowbridge, who's not able to come this morning, is very much of the same opinion. As a consequence of the development of Stafford, the county town, it's grown fantastically. In my division, there's been a lot of new housing done and more to come yet. So the provision of the new primary school on Burley Fields in Stafford is really excellent news, and thank you to the Cabinet member for being a part of that process. Just a quick plea, as local members, could you please ensure that you keep us in the loop as to what's happening, because the education of our children is incredibly important. I was surprised this morning to hear that in the SATs there was some concern about them being too hard. Now, I was always told that you should aspire towards a challenging education, and I think that that's a separate issue, but we need to make sure our youngsters, as Philip White said, are just trained to the best ability that we can and given the best opportunities in life. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Philip Atkins.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I look forward to bumping into Jonathan Price at the opening of new schools, because it's been an ongoing process as housing developments taking place in the county and new schools have been opened, and there's certainly a way forward with that. But the reason I'm standing up was when Charlotte Atkins was speaking about Leek and the plea for one high school, it reminded me of standing in this chamber about 30 years ago, listening to the discussions about the reorganisations of school in Leek and the personalities involved, and it was like a minefield, and we decided to leave status quo. But I'm pleased to see that they have come together in as a governing federation or whatever. But I think at the moment we need to concentrate on getting new schools built for where the housing developments are, and the local members for Leek should just try and work out how the best way forward is. I understand that occasionally you end up with not enough children for a high school, but that really gets into the 3-tier and 2-tier system in Leek, because I believe one of the middle schools is probably still bigger than one of the high schools. And representing a 3-tier area and the situation that we find ourselves in the Uttoxeter area with 3-tier and 2-tier schools, where they're managed by one federation, and it's a very difficult one. And we represent the local people. That's the issue. And if that's what they want, that's what they want. But they have to remember that the cost of running these schools is more, and it could be to the detriment of their children's education, which has got to be the key thing looking forward. I'm pleased to hear, Charlotte, you've got the same problems as me.
Councillor John Francis.
Thank you, Chairman. Many congratulations on your appointment. I think you'll do a fantastic job, and I look forward to meeting you in the coming year.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Francis.
Councillor Greatax, congratulations to you as well. Thank you very much. Yes, SEND schools. My school that I'm chairman of is Marshlands, and it's got one of the best reputations in the country for being one of the best SEND schools in the country. I'd like to thank Jonathan and the county for what they've done for SEND, because we've taken over partially a half-redundant school in Tillington and moved part of our Marshlands group into there. There's 4 classrooms in there with about 22 children and a deputy head. That wouldn't have been possible but for this programme. The thing about it is that because of the development that's going on in Stafford, and Stafford at the minute resembles a huge building site of houses. It's like a building site of a housing estate, the whole of Stafford is. And that reflects on what's happened at Marshlands. I moved the school nearly 10 years ago now from the south end of town to the north end of town, which was a redundant centre for elderly people, and we refurbished it. It was originally a primary school 40 years ago. We refurbished it and moved the children into there. The planned places at the time were 48 in the old school. This increased to 80 at the new school. The new school, plus the extension we've got at Tillington, is now 128. And we've got another 22. I was corrected by the head at a meeting yesterday. We've got another 22 to come in September, which will make us 150 thereabouts. So that's gone up threefold in 8 years, which is a phenomenal explosion in our SEND children. And children with moderate learning difficulties, MLDs, can be schooled in high schools and primary schools because they are, with moderate learning difficulties, capable of learning in an ordinary school. However, that is only possible if the Senko in that school is good.
And the special educational needs coordinator in that school has not only got to be a teacher, but they've got to be taken out of their full-time role and given that role exclusively, because they've got to look after these children properly. And we have had 2 or 3 MLD children come back to us because the school couldn't cope with them, because, in my view, the Senko wasn't good enough. So we've got to nail this as far as Senko goes if we're going to accommodate these children in ordinary schools for their education, and it's paramount that we do that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr Francis. Councillor Jonathan Price.
Congratulations on your new post, and my commiserations as you are a West Brom fan, and of course, I support the best team in the West Midlands, which is Aston Villa, of course. Apologies. And I would also like
yes. Can I say, Councillor Price, always start off with a little bit of controversy. You've certainly upset the member to your right.
I'd like to congratulate the Vice Chair and thank the outgoing Chairman, who I thought has done an absolutely superb job over the past 2 years. So thank you very much for that. I also appreciate the questions as well that have come through about the Capital Schools programme. Just firstly, I'd like to address the question that Councillor Winnington has raised about the Burleyfield School within his division, and I can confirm that we are due to start work next year in April, May time, and I'm happy to have further discussions about that with the local members for that area. A good question as well around SEND, which was mentioned by Councillor Yates, and as part of that Capital Schools programme, it's £43 million that we have been spending. Not only on the conditions of our schools, but on the basic need for our schools to make sure that we have enough school places across the county. And it's something I think, as an authority, we deliver very, very well. As you know, part of that £43 million, there is a £13.3 million of that money is on the SEND capital funding, which is to increase potentially SEND spaces or put alternative provision in place. Members should be aware that we started a consultation yesterday around SEND, which is about proactive early intervention and additional support within mainstream schools. That consultation runs on until the 5th of July, and I would encourage all members to look at that. We have consulted with all our key partners, including schools, the National Health Service, pupils, of course, and Senkos, about how they would like to see that provision implemented, so I would certainly encourage that. Leek High School and the issues within Leek, and Charlotte, Councillor Atkins and I have met previously about this, and I'm very keen to support her in any way that we can. So again, we will have further discussions about that, and we have met with our lead officers. And I think I've covered all of the questions. Yep. So I'm going to say a couple of quick words, if that's all right, about the Capital Schools programme itself, only because of the amount of money that we've been spending and how important that is. So it is widely recognised that the quality of school buildings can either help or hinder learning and well-being. Well-designed buildings and pleasant surroundings can lead to better attendance and concentration, as well as motivation and self-esteem, factors which can improve performance. Since 2017, we have done over 550 planned maintenance projects, 150 projects specifically focusing on reducing our carbon footprint, and Councillor Tagg will no doubt be keen to hear that. 250 priority projects that address property issues that schools themselves have considered a priority, and almost 150 toilet refurbishments. The County Council also has a statutory duty too, and I alluded to this earlier, to make sure there are enough school places in the area to promote high education standards and ensure fair access to education opportunities. Major projects currently on site are coming to conclusion this September are the opening of the relocation of the St Leonard's Primary School in Stafford and the Anna Seward new 1FE Primary School and Nursery in Deanslade in Lichfield. Major projects starting construction for September 2024 openings are Beaconfield's new 1FE Primary School and Nursery off the Beaconside Road in Stafford, The Amington New 1 FE Primary School and Nursery on the former golf course in Tamworth, and this school has been expanded and will be expanded to a 2 FE. And the Dunstall 1 FE Primary School and Nursery on the former Dunstall Farm. This school has been designed to be expanded by a further 1.5 FE. And that's just some of the work that we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Price. I now propose to join item 3 and item 4 together. So item 3 is Highways and Transport Programme 2023-24, and item 4 is pothole funding. Do we have any speakers? Councillor Philip Hudson.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
I've not handed over yet in East Staffordshire, so I'm sure that I will see you next week. I think we've got a couple of civic engagements. Really, I want to talk about item 4. It says, a good connected road network is important. It is very important to Uttoxeter. Absolutely important. Why? Because we have a lot of people that are living in our new housing developments now who need to get out of Uttoxeter to work. It's very important to us for businesses because we have lorries that want to come into our businesses. They want to get through to Stafford on the A518. We don't have a bypass at the moment to get them off the A50 out of Uttoxeter and into Stafford. And also visitors to Uttoxeter, to the races, coming through Uttoxeter to Alton Towers. So it's important that we maintain our roads. So I very much welcome the funding, but it isn't just the funding that's the issue. It's the delivery. It's the timeliness and quality of delivery that we need to scrutinise and keep. It's very important. And I look forward to the future of the new contract with Amy and the fact that members will have more say in where we fix our potholes, when we fix our potholes, but we need Amy to keep to the agreed timetables that we give them, because I've been let down a couple of times in the last few weeks, and it's important that we have more control over what's going on. My divisional highways team are great. They do a fantastic job, but unfortunately sometimes they escalate stuff. We still don't get repairs done, but it's important that we get it there. So I very much welcome the increase in funding. Fantastic. We just need to scrutinise now the point of delivery. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tom Loughborough-Rudd.
Hello. Welcome, Chairman. To your, I'm sure that you'll be good Chairman. Welcome to the Vice Chairman. Thank you to the previous Chairman for your service to this county, especially during a difficult time. I hate to get up to discuss potholes, but I haven't really got a choice. I find that, just like I echo Councillor Hudson's views on Amy's contract, the additional investment in my division is welcome. There was a pothole recently. It's been outside a house that's been maybe linked to the parish. I recently visited with the leader of the parish council and my fellow councillor for Burton South and the highways team in Lichfield, and there were quite a few angry residents because whilst we have the money, we need a more permanent solution. And I'd like to add my comments to the improvement of works by Amy. I believe that recently they need to be checked. I think that we need to be checking the standard of work that we're doing. And I'd ask, and if possible, I'd like to meet the Cabinet member whenever he has a moment to discuss the works in my division, because I believe that the residents of my division need investment. And I think that it's critical, because I have nothing bad to say about my highways team. My highways team are exceptional. They are doing a difficult job. But I found it distressing to be there whilst members of the public are having a go directly to members of the highways team who is trying to do his job. I think that it's right that we protect our own staff and make sure that the work that we do as a county is not affecting our employees. It was very difficult, and people care about the roads in this county. And just like also like Council Hudson, Burtonwood is a commuter town, and Burtonwood's highways investment, I am aware, needs a more permanent solution, because try as we might, we can't fix it all with the current funding, and we're having to maintain what we've got. And especially with the fact that Sankey's Corner is right next to Cannock Chase, and the additional MacArthur Glen, which is where the traffic is increasing in my division, I think that additional work needs to be done. And I'd press on the county to press for a more permanent solution from the government, because we are trying our very best, and we generally are, but people don't always believe that, and it's becoming quite difficult for me as county councillor to sit here and go. Tell the parish council that. So in Burtonwood, we're steal this problem, we are also going to be working with the parish council, because that is what we have to do with the current situation with funding, to make sure that we get the deliverance. And I welcome the news about Amy. I think it is definitely appropriate that we have a contract that we can make sure Amy is delivering the work that we pay them for. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Arshad Asfar.
Thank you, Chair. Just like to start by welcoming yourself and the Vice Chair and Paul, the outgoing Chair. Echoing comments made by the members as well, and in this section of the agenda, any additional funding from central government is always welcome, especially as the cuts caused by austerity, one of the primary reasons for the state of the roads. But we also need to consider how well the quality of the work is done. This is not to denigrate the work completed by subcontractors. And in addition, we're continuously being told that if there's more than one pothole in any area, it'll get looked at as a joint sort of project. I'm finding in my division there's still areas which are getting sort of one pothole filled and a few further up the sort of road which are still remaining. And the contractor's obviously coming out a second time to do them maybe a few weeks later. So it's value for money, you know, while we're there, why not repair the all? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Philip Atkins.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sorry to congratulate you. You're the 17th chairman that I've had. I just popped out and just counted all those pictures that Paul Snape had. I'm celebrating 36 years on the County Council. Commiserations. I've spent more than half my life on the council. But I'm standing up now to be thankful and grateful that at last the Beamhurst roundabout on the Uttoxeter Road in my division is going to be fixed. The roundabout is not that old. It's probably only about 18 years old, but because of the growth of JCB, it now serves 3 factories, not 1. But I heard Phil Hudson going on about the bypass. Well, we got the bypass in 1987. Unfortunately, when the Borough Council was under Labour and independent control, they chose not to make a bypass round to the west of Uttoxeter. As a result of that, the 400 workers who moved from the cab factory at Rugeley up to Beamhurst and is now employing 700 people used Pigeon Hay Lane as the alternative western bypass. Country lanes that aren't made to take that sort of traffic. And if you read the JCB talkback of a few months ago, they're going to double production of their machines over the next 5 years, from 40,000 to 80,000 machines a year. Most of them, the vast bulk of those machines, will be built at Roaster or at Beamhurst. So I'm thankful that we're going to be doing this, but I think residents have to remember that the problems of potholes is not because roads aren't used, it's because they are used. And they're very difficult with the weather conditions. We have frost and cold, they crack and do, and we have a process of about how important it is in certain areas. Now, I know residential areas, you may want everything perfect and everything else, but life's not like that. As long as it's not a trip hazard or it's awful, you know, that is the thing. Whereas the roads where lorries are going is really, really quite important that those roads are maintained. And the news that the government's going to increase the length of lorries to 18.55 metres, not the weight, the length, should mean less journeys, less wear and tear on the road. But already people are worried about the overhang at the tail of the lorry and it's sticking out. I've had problems with the wall because whenever I have a long lorry does turn up, not 18.55, but the next size down, they take this wall out. So the drivers of the lorries have to be extremely careful about that overhang at the rear of the lorry. So I'm thankful for the money, but I think our residents, constituents, must realise that this problem will never, ever be solved. Because as you have more industry to create jobs, more deliveries, you know, we're all online, aren't we? Vans are dropping things off all the time. We are going to have an ever-mounting issue about potholes. And everybody forgets that 2/3 of this money that this council spends is on social care, caring for our vulnerable adults, vulnerable children who really do need our help. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Nigel Yates.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Hopkins made a very pertinent point there about lorries getting longer, because one of the issues which we have on our bypass is clipping of the roundabouts and clipping of the curves. And I think the curb design, which was done 20 years ago to allow drainage, has actually created a device which has got quite a lot of leverage when it is clipped. And I think now, you know, when we do reconstruct roundabouts, and obviously in the capital programme, which is very welcome, we're talking about reconstructing the 3 roundabouts next financial year on the Meadows Way, and I'm sure there's other roundabout structures going on. Perhaps we really need not just to replace like with like, but actually, you know, a complete enough to redesign. I'm sure Councillor Williams has got that well on board. And I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking Councillor Williams. We had a Teams meeting last month which was enlightening. I think it was a good two-way conversation. I certainly accept and acknowledge that Councillor Williams is really driving, excuse the pun, to get these things done, and is absolutely on board. And I found him a very engaging gentleman, so I do thank you for that. So after the plaudits, let's get down to business. Yes, perfect. I am a little bit concerned, picking up on a point Councillor Hudson said, slippage. My worry is that I've seen traffic order which says jobs are going to be done, specifically the patching work on the Meadows Way in preparation for the roundabout reconstruction next year. And the traffic order's gone out between now and the 31st of October. That doesn't seem to be lining up with the capacity of the contractors to deliver. And I have received, shall we say, pushback from the highways team, and I've pushed back with formal answers to questions in this council chamber which say that it will be done, and I'm still waiting for the response, but I'm working on the basis that that will be done this year. Otherwise there'll be a lot more than 138 potholes, I can assure you. The other thing which I want to move on to is the surface treatment plan, which is the maintenance as opposed to the repair treatment. I think it was George Orwell said, which all roads are created even, but some roads are more uneven than others. Thank you. And I think some of the surface treatments which are actually being done at this moment in time are on roads which are less than 2 decades old. And would you believe it? I thought I was in a surreal parallel universe. I had 5 raging residents haranguing me on Sunday morning to say a road which was like a billiard table was having a surface treatment. Why the heck, I know other choice words which I won't repeat in this chamber, why the heck aren't they spending that money on Meadows Way? Because it's a video game. To which I explain the capital programme, to which I say the laudits of our Councillor Williams over there, and then I retreat into the garage and do some DIY work in the dark, to be honest, to recover from that shock. So what I would like to see on the surface treatment plan, because I do accept that a perfect road being treated might last a little bit longer, but we're not starting off at billiard tables around the world. We've got issues. I would like to see that draft plan submitted to members so that we can discuss it in a timely manner with our towns and parishes, so that, again, with a little bit of interpretation, we can argue the point, and if needs be, tweak the odd thing. But at least that way, communication saves an awful lot of problems. So I would like to be ahead of the game on that, and I certainly would like to be, you know, your ally to make sure that those things are put through and make sure it's communicated and make sure the residents, never mind the town councils, are on board. And the final thing, just picking up the final paragraph on section 3, I applaud anything which happens to do with cycle lanes and removing vehicles from cars and making health and welfare and fitness. But next time there's some money, when there's some things around, we've got plenty of schemes, safe routes to school schemes which are on the shelf, which I would really like to introduce, and safe walking and safe cycling routes within some of the more rural areas. Within Leek, there's a scheme in Cheadle which we're starting to look at, and certainly within the town I come from, which is Biddulph, which I may have mentioned I come from Biddulph, but that's another story. But so yes, I really would like to take that on board, but it's slippage, which is one of Councillor Hudson's initial comments, which is a main concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Yates. I would inform members that we have an awful lot of speakers on this subject, so please be patient. Your turn will come. Councillor Mike Worthington.
Thank you, Chairman. I won't talk as long as Nigel. He's certainly a good talker. But he has got some good points there, and all the members who come from the Leek area using the A520 will know it's a question of dodging the potholes. It's all right having this money, but it's about delivery, like I think Philippe mentioned about delivery. I just don't feel, in my opinion, that Amy are doing the best job for the Stafford County Council. I don't know whether they employ contractors who aren't doing the work appropriately, but there's certainly a lot of failings on my part. I've never had so many complaints on my emails by residents. The main road at Wetley Rocks, I was told by Highways that's going to cost £1 million to put right. Well, I know we had an extra 15 million. I did ask Alan White if I could have one of his 15, but unfortunately I know he's under a lot more pressure from other members as well. But I do think that we need to get a grip of this, because we're paying all this money to Amy, and I just don't feel they're sealing some of these potholes, they're filling them in, they're not sealing them appropriately, and they're coming out in less than 12 months. So I really hope that Amy can be brought to boot slightly to get these contractors, get the work done properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keith Flunder.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations on your new position, and congratulations to Colin, and thank you for all your events that I attended over the 2 years you were Chair, so thank you very much. For a want of being yet again from the Moorlands after the two speakers in front of me, so I'll have to keep it extra short on this particular occasion. I wanted to express my thanks to the Highways team. I've just been round to see some residents in my patch. I had a long-term problem down Millhays Road, and that's on the outskirts a bit off, but anyway, that was it. And it created potholes, it created flooding of gardens. It was a large problem that had been floating around, mind the pun, for a long time. And I went round to see them recently, and they are absolutely over the moon with the work that had been carried out about 4 months ago. I was slightly sceptical that it would cure all the problems in this one area. It was a bit of drainage down off farmland and everything else, but it's worked. It's been a good project. They came in with the right sort of attitude and the right analysis of what the problems were. And all I can say is that if this is the way forward, David, if you're paying attention, that is, that if we can work together from the members with support of residents and local other councillors, it would be great if we could keep that going with the new funding and everything else, which I think was announced at a group meeting we had recently, and I just think that's a fantastic way forward, and I really look forward to trying to get some of this funding forward for all of us to try and reduce those issues, rather than just keep patching up little tiny bits here and there, as people have already said, you know, and the design of roundabouts and things that haven't been long-standing and haven't been able to take the weight of vehicles quite literally. And if we're attracting all this new economy into what we're doing after my role as the regen officer at the Moorlands, I really do hope that we can keep the roads up to some sort of standard, both for residents and for businesses across the whole of Staffordshire. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Mike Sutherland.
Thank you, Chair. And it would be remiss if I didn't congratulate you and Colin, but also at your past chair, our past chair, Paul. Great couple of years under Paul's stewardship and what have you, and indeed your apprenticeship, as you referred to. Coming into this subject that we're talking about now, we could spend all day, and I will try and avoid going through what's already been said. What I will say, for me, there is a piece of grant money that we secured some less than 12 months ago, and that's the 19.8 million for the cycle and walkways. And for me, that's quite critical, and if you'll indulge me for a couple of minutes, I'll explain why. We have a designer centre, we all know it, MacArthur Glen, and I hope you've visited it. It's within less than 1 mile from the town centre. We have Cannock Town Centre levelling up fund development, about to commence. And the problem that we would end up with if we didn't get this piece of funding, would be a gridlock. Our roads are quite busy around that particular area, and trying to walk from our homes into Cannock and out to the parks and what have you is very, very difficult. So this investment will really, really transform what is a good piece of development that's come through and open up the town. And I think what we tend to do at times is we get these new developments in, and it's the unintended consequences that we don't plan for. I do thank Philip White for actually pushing this one through. At the time when I heard about it, I said, what's the chances of getting this done? And he said, I think we've got a good chance. I'm really, really delighted. It's way off in the future. I know it's going to happen in the next year or so, but it is really critical for Cannock Town Centre. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Councillor Tina Clements.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations on your new role, and congratulations to yourself, Councillor Greatrix, as well. Chairman, we had a member seminar on this. David Williams, Highways Cabinet member, went out of his way. A lot of the issues that have been raised this morning were covered in that seminar, and I find it a little bit insulting that people couldn't attend that seminar for whatever reason and now bring their questions to this morning. Look at the figures, people. Just look at the figures. £80 million and more. The Prosperous Scrutiny Committee have gone on the journey with the Cabinet member through the Highways Transformation Programme. This is about you guys working better with your highways managers. This gives you more control to get the jobs done that you want done. And just to give you a couple of things, you know, Councillor Pritchard, Gungate and Aldergate project, £900,000. Councillor Thomas J, who's not in the room, the area around Florendine School to make it easier for children to be safer and the roads to be made wider, £600,000. This is about you guys working with your highways managers better than you are to get the jobs done that you want done. And let's, you know, let's stop kicking Councillor Williams and let's work with him better so we can get the job done properly.
Members, moving on, please. Moving on, please. Thank you. Councillor Jerry Cookfield.
Yeah. Can I just congratulate you becoming the new chairman? I hope you get on as well as what I did with the last one, right? We haven't got the same start this time as what I had with the last one, as you know, a little bit of upset between the two of us, but he finally gave in the end. Got him down to my way of thinking. Yeah. Can I just say, Mr. Chairman, right? We should be jumping up and down and shouting hallelujah. Finally, right? We've got all this money that's going to be spent within our area. And people, instead of complaining, right, should be following the procedures. And the procedure as it stands at this moment in time, if you've got problems on the highways with your roads or no matter what it is, right, write it down or text it or email, whatever you want to do, right, and send it to the highways department, right, so the engineers can come out and inspect it to see, basically, if you're telling the truth, whether that road or that pothole really needs doing. Because that's what it's all about, Mr. Chairman. And can I just say, right, that when I look at our areas where I live, right, we've all got problems. We could all stand here till the cows come home and say, well, I've got a pothole here, or I've got a little pothole. Oh, the road isn't level. Oh, you know, all things under the sun, right? And we could go on forever and a day, right? But it doesn't get us anywhere. At the end of the day, we've all got to wait our turn, right? And they can only be in one place at a time doing the jobs. So you've got to give and take a bit and sit back, and nobody moans more than me, right?
I can remember years ago moaning about all the potholes. It'll never change. You can go on for the next 20 years, they'll still be moaning about potholes, because as long as you've got roads and as long as you've got vehicles on them, you will get potholes, right? But the point is, at the end of the day, is getting them repaired. And the government has turned round and given all this money. Now, we come look at our head, they're levelling up. When we come to look at levelling up within the Borough of Newcastle, right, the government has also given money to create new jobs within the area. And within nothing, right, they can have more units put up. So we can have first starters, people who want to start a business for the first time, right, will have the opportunity to go in these new units, right, which is in nothing, right, and we can go on, but that's going to bring more transport, it's going to bring more roads and more everything else, but at the end of the day, you either move with it or you stand still. And what happens when you stand still, right? Everything is finished, Mr. All pack in, because that's basically what it is all about on the highways. And can I just say, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Mr. Francis, thank you. Everybody's allowed to speak. I don't particularly do you a favour, Mr. Hookfield. Of course, you're allowed to speak, and I'm sure we get on very well. My office door will always be open if you have an issue. Moving on swiftly, I believe, Councillor David Smith, who's waited very patiently, Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, I was very remiss not to have congratulated you earlier on in your chairmanship, and also Councillor Colin Greatrix. He and I go back a very, very long time, a longer time than I perhaps care to recall. Chairman, I've listened to the debate this morning, and it's all very interesting, and all the complaints everybody's got. But the one thing that we don't seem to quite realise sometimes as a House is the massive job that David has to deal with. We've got a massive network of roads, most of which of any distance were built to carry horses and carts. So those roads will never ever stand up to the sort of wear that they now have with massive heavy vehicles. Unless we were looking at replacing the entire road network, we will never overcome this problem. And I think that we need to do more for the public to understand the massive job that we as a council are doing to try and tackle a 200, 300, 400, 500-year-old road network. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be very, very difficult to do, and I have great sympathy with the people who have to try and deliver that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I have one final speaker on my screen before we call the Cabinet member in. So the final speaker on this one is Councillor Paul Snape.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to support really what Tina said. I know there was a lot of comments made and noises made, but it's so important that we do support our infrastructure managers across the county, and we support the Cabinet member. I mean, Councillor Mike Sutherland mentioned the millions being spent in Cannock Town Centre. That's on my division. Also, I've had 670,000 on cycleways put in my division because I've worked with the team, I've worked with David, I've barracked them. I need more money for this and that. And that's what we've got to do. We're the county councillors. We're there to represent our division, and if we don't do it, it's down to us, not the organisation. What I'd also like to say is that when work is being done, I go out and I watch the workmen, I watch Amy do it. And on one occasion, they were all sitting in the cab when they should have been working. So I knocked the cab and said, "What's going on?" I'm your county councillor, I showed them a badge and stuff. And they said, "Oh, the machine's broken, we'll be back tomorrow." I said, "You won't." I phoned David and Mark Keeley, my infrastructure manager. They came out. Within an hour, they got a new machine. They were back at work. That's our role as a county councillor. There aren't superintendents of work anymore across the thing. That's our job to go and do it, not to sit on our backsides and moan later, as has happened unfortunately today in the chamber. Let us get out there, do our role as councillors and get the job done.
Councillor David Williams.
I'll try not to. It's a very high low. Obviously, very happy to receive those very positive comments. And yeah, Councillor Yates, you're quite right. We did work together, and it was a good session. And that's why the briefing that went on as well for members was very, very useful. It is a point where we are putting £80 million of investment into roads this year. The extra 15 the county councillors put in this year, the extra 15 we've already promised for next year is not from the DFT, that's from us. So we've putting in that money from ourselves, and that's the commitment to what we want to be able to deliver. And I can honestly tell you that the work that we've done with the transformation has really progressed, that we've worked with the scrutiny, but also I've got the right people in Philip White and Mark DeVille who've looked at the contracts. And the way we've changed the contract with Amy, with the way they're going to be working, each facet will be assessed on an annual basis, and any facet, any part of the roles, and there's quite a lot of roles that gets done on highways, any part of those roles that we're not happy with, we will tell them, and we'll change them or we'll get somebody else in. And that's the way we've changed this contract. It really does work for us. The community teams now have more control over what will be taking place in that area, and that means you've got more control. You will go to your community teams, you will work with them, you will tell them where your issues are, they will look at them and assess them. Now, there are times, like we've said, where roads get resurfaced or they have surface dressing. That's because sometimes underneath is actually deteriorating, or it's on a programme and that means we haven't got to touch that for the next 10 to 15 years. That's probably why that programme will go. And other streets may be past that point for surface dressing and therefore will need complete reconstruction. Hell of a lot more expensive. So what we will do is make sure that that's on the programme. And for the programme of works for this year and next year, where we're doing our capital programmes, that is out, and I'll make sure we get it sent out again to all members so that you'll be able to look at that. And please do go and question your community teams about which roads are being done, because I want you to understand what they will tell you. They will be able to say to you that the undersurface is deteriorating, and that's what we're going to do, and that's the reason for it. It's a really big thing as well, because we've got the Luff projects coming on, where we've got Branston interchange, massive amount of work going to go on in Branston, loads of work going on in the capital programme in Burton-on-Trent, Derby Road, a 2-year programme to do a major artery into Burton, the A511 also, a major artery with another large island. And you have to remember that when we're talking about islands, the vehicles that are out there today, they're a lot heavier than they used to be. We're also going to have electric vehicles which are heavier than what our vehicles are now. That will also determine and start to rip up our roads even more. We will have to look at that. So the programmes that we're putting in place are to make sure that our main arterial roads, our main junctions, our main gateways into towns, cities and villages are maintained so that we can make sure people can get to business, they can get to school, and they can use the leisure. When it comes to going for funding, we do have to put in active travel to be able to apply for funding. Otherwise, DFT don't even consider it. So that's why when I get questioned, why are we putting cycleways in? Why are we putting walkways in? That's why. If we do not, we will not attract any funding. And if you look at what we've been able to attract over the last couple of years, fantastic. And I will defend Amy for a lot of the work that they do. So if you look at the SWAR, is a perfect example, and the Lichfield bypass. Great pieces of work, great pieces of engineering. When it comes to the smaller jobs, we are on it. We are determined to deliver. We are determined to make sure that the quality is increased. And by that, what we've done is we've taken our inspectors back in-house, and we are instructing them to make sure that when jobs are done, they are out to look at them. Now, remember, we are just coming out of pothole creation time over the winter, and now we're into repair time. So what we've looked at is that you will have temporary holding repairs going on in the winter because it's cost effective to do it. And then what we will do is where we've got major plans, we will wait and do it on a major plan. Otherwise, we'll go back and repair those ones to make sure that they are done properly, but when it will actually last. We utilise the lab to make sure what we use is right. We test our work on a constant basis, and actually I'm going to say that I really am noticing the difference out on the field, and I really do appreciate the fact that We have to remember that the people out there working change over the winter. They do the roads all the year, and then during the winter, they're the same people who are going out in the terrible weather with the gritting. It's a really positive change, this, and I hope everybody works with their community teams to make sure we can deliver more for our residents. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Alan White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to pick up on something that Councillor Philip Atkins raised during his speech about the strategic implications of government decisions about funding of our highways across Staffordshire. The roads investment strategy comes in waves, which takes place every 5 years or so, and it's known as RIS 1, RIS 2. We're going into RIS 3, and from 2030 we go to RIS 4. It is vital that we lobby our MPs to make sure that our roads investment strategy programme stays on track. We have strategic businesses in this county, and many of them have been referred to this morning. JCB, for example, needs to get its goods to market. It needs to get its employees onto site, and we need to make sure that the roads are capable of delivering that. So I'd ask everybody to lobby their MPs to make sure that we get the allocation of funding that we need in order to grow this economy. Because without it, we can't level up. It requires government departments, Treasury, Department for Transport and DLUC to speak to each other. And don't underestimate how little they do actually speak to each other in central government. I had a conversation with the Managing Director of Levelling Up on Tuesday and said, you are aware that the government, that DFT is considering moving the RIS 3 allocations into RIS 4, i.e. delaying them by 4 years. Completely unaware. And that's the sort of thing we're up against. We need to make sure that all government departments understand the importance of funding not just our repair work, but also our strategic work. And to the same point, we talked about the allocation of money for the highways and the repairs and the strategic infrastructure. But we need certainty around the amount of money we're getting over a period of time. We can't just go hand to mouth each year because it's an inefficient way of delivering improvements. So to all of us, you know the job of work you need to do in your divisions in order to support the work of the repairs of the roads. I also ask you to support us in lobbying for the money we need and the certainty we need in order to deliver for the people of Staffordshire, those that we represent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We now move on to item 5 of the Leader Statement, which is Mental Health and Mental Wellbeing Strategy in the 2023 through to 2028. Councillor Paul Northcote.
Good morning and thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I congratulate you on reaching the ascension of the big chair. And I also congratulate your Deputy, Colin Green. And I also want to say thanks to the outgoing Mayor, Paul. Thank you for doing a good job, a wonderful job over your tenure. I'm delighted to introduce this part of the Leader Statement. And I think it's a good story, Mr. Chairman. The County Council Integrated Care Board have jointly developed the final draft of the new mental health and mental wellbeing strategy for the period of 2023 and 2028. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, is there something, is it a meeting going? Sorry. I was trying to address you, sir.
Yeah, I once again have a slight problem with the screen, so I was just looking at the screen, but excuse me, I was listening.
Thank you. I'll thank you for that, and sorry about the team that you support. The strategy takes into account recent national policy changes and the impact of the COVID pandemic, and it's there that I want to emphasise the good news of this strategy. My colleague, Councillor McMahon, signposted me to a recent publication in the Financial Times reporting that the happiness level in the UK has fallen considerably since COVID-19. That reports that there's a lack of resilience because people are feeling less happy, that and the impact of the inflationary changes that have happened and the cost of living increases. Mr. Chairman, there are also reports to say that because of COVID-19, people have become more resilient. So there's conflicting evidence coming out of that, but we really want to particularly address the fact that people are feeling more anxious, people are feeling more threatened by the situation, and the change coming out of COVID hasn't been as smooth as we thought it may be. And the strategy sets out 6 main outcomes, and particularly I want to mention and stress the young people in this equation, because they apparently, according to research that is emerging now, have been affected more than any other age group. And it's up to this strategy to make sure that people have access to the mental health services in an equal way, to make sure they get that timely intervention when they're in a crisis position. And to improve more integrated and quality healthcare. Now, the Cabinet have approved this strategy, Mr. Chairman, and the Health and Wellbeing Board will make sure and monitor the delivery of the associated action plan. This, I feel, is an important part of Staffordshire, and the way that it maintains its thriving community is to make sure that the mental health of its residents, young and old, are fit and healthy to proceed with their lives as much as they can do. So that's my introduction, Mr. Chairman. Only too pleased to come back on any questions following the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Charlotte Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Despite all the claims to the contrary, we're told that we know that the mental health does not have parity of esteem with physical health within the NHS. The NHS mantra is correct, prevention is better than cure. But certainly what we're seeing, I think, is that many of the community projects which are designed to keep people out of acute care have diminishing support, not increasing support. Just within my own division, we've seen the Nivden project effectively closed. We've got the John Hall Garden, which is a fantastic horticultural project, running on a shoestring. We've got Borderland Voices, a charity which has been going for over 20 years, looking for new premises so they can continue their valuable work. And what worries me is that if we really do believe in prevention more important than cure, then we should be putting more resources into those organisations and into the community to ensure that people can keep well mentally. And we understand post-COVID, and particularly among young people, that mental health is a real and increasing concern. So what is the Health and Wellbeing Board going to be doing to ensure that that community level support for people with mental health issues is increased so that we can keep people out of acute care? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jill Hood.
Thank you, Chairman. I was only thinking when I was wondering what to actually say about this report that you and I met at the coffee machine at your first meeting, which led me on to think about the many people who are working from home and those that don't have the social interaction of standing at the coffee machine and gossiping with their colleagues. I think in particular of my own young daughter, 25 years old, who works from home most days. I think about her mental health and well-being, and I've seen a deterioration since the pandemic. I think the pandemic has had a profound effect on many people's mental health. In fact, a huge impact. And I sit on the Health and Care Overview Committee, and we often have representatives of the various mental health agencies come along to our meetings. They never quantify their work. They never give us success rates, probably because of the confidentiality, but it would be good if they could say to us, we're doing really, really well. They never do. We have to scrutinise them more. It says everyone can look after their own mental health, well-being and find support in the communities. Rubbish. They absolutely cannot. People have access to services when needed. Rubbish. They do not. Believe it or not, I have more inquiries from my residents about mental health and them not being able to find anywhere suitable to help them. I have more inquiries from parents who say, we've been told our child needs help, but we've got to wait months. This just isn't good enough. And I know that Jonathan Price does a sterling job in the position that he has. But what can we do about it? I think Charlotte Atkins touched on it, that we need to invest more. They need to have more resources available. Only this morning, I had a direct message from a lady who's just lost her husband, and her son, who is 29 years old, has moved back home to help. His mental health is deteriorating, and the last sentence says, "Please, Jill, can you help? I don't know where to turn." Due to the cost of living crisis, we have more families losing their homes, rental section, privately owned section, and going back to their parents. Many of these parents don't know how to cope with these families, and then we have the breakdown of the family, and we have an even worse problem with our mental health. So I'm pleased to see that we do have a strategy, and I hope that we don't become complacent. I hope that we keep on asking these agencies, National Health, how are you helping our people with mental health? Because someone with an urgent mental health problem can't be told, come back. I have dealings with an agency who I know a gentleman who has been being seen partially during pandemic. It was phone call appointments. They don't keep the appointments. Sometimes when he goes to hold his appointment, makes the effort to travel into Stafford, they're not there. Oh, he's not here today, he's gone out. They then ring me and say, what can we do about it? Well, it's good. We are doing something about it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Jeremy Pert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the previous comments. Members will be aware that the mental health and mental well-being all-age strategy recently came through the Health and Care Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and certainly had a good airing. And anyone who wasn't there or hasn't watched the recording, I would certainly recommend looking at it, because we certainly gave the subject a good airing. But I also welcome the fact that it isn't just about adults, that it also includes children and young people, especially given the comments relating to the pandemic. I am sure that this will come back to committee in due course, and actually we are in control, after all, at committee of what that work programme does look like. Separately, and just to pick up the point about dashboards, it is imperative that in the next 12 months we get a useful set of dashboards for mental health and physical health. We've been chivying the relevant representatives across health and social care for an inordinate amount of time to get there, and we will get there this year. However, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to make four sort of comments in relation to mental health. The first one is, it would be very remiss of me not to mention that this week we are in Mental Health Awareness Week. And the theme that has been adopted is just anxiety, because frankly it is never just anxiety. It is very easy for people to dismiss and invalidate anxiety as just worrying or being stressed. And these are really common phrases and can be really debilitating in terms of marginalising people's feelings. Equally, and you might have seen the Just Anxiety campaign that's going, 8 million people across the country, 1 in 10 of us, suffer from anxiety disorders. And so I would encourage any member to publicise the work that's going on within the Mental Health Awareness Week. And clearly the message needs to be about don't suffer in silence, because once you're cut off from your support network, making that first step is often very difficult. Second point I wanted to make actually did revolve around investment and money. I'm sure this is something that will come back to committee in due course. A total of £5.5 million is being invested into Staffordshire in mental health services. They're across the whole of Staffordshire, not just into Midlands Partnership, University Hospitals Trust, but also into North Staffs combined. And that funding is being targeted 3.1 million into St George's Hospital for a crisis assessment centre, which is designed to be an alternative to A&E. Another £800,000 is going into a crisis cafe. We've talked a number of times about the voluntary sector, and there is going to be a project in Tamworth to look at creating a community hub at the cherry orchards. And that's on top of some investment that Midlands Partnership Foundation Trust has made in terms of trying to align housing teams across all of our districts and boroughs, as well as citizens' advice, to make sure that they are providing the early intervention. In addition to that, the Community Foundation had some funding, which was all about supporting the voluntary sector organisations with, from memory, a minimum of 15,000 up to 50,000 to support campaigns, and I would encourage members to look at that if the scheme is still open. The third point I wanted to make was in relation to parity of esteem. It is really important we have these conversations if we are to get to parity of esteem. It's really important that the money flows into the system, but it's also really important that there are no taboo subjects that we talk about. And finally, Mr Chairman, I wanted to make one other point, which was to thank County Councillor Mrs Anne Edgeler for being the mental health champion for Staffordshire and for all the work that she does, because I think it's really important, because she embodies what I've just described and just talked about, which is raising awareness to get to that parity of esteem that we all want to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pert. So, Councillor Anne Edgeler.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and good morning, everyone. And congratulations on your appointment as Chairman, and congratulations, Colin, on your appointment as Vice Chair. Being mental health champion in Staffordshire, I welcome this strategy. And can I take this opportunity to thank everyone that has helped prepare it. Mental health is a blight on many people and families' lives. I am pleased that mental health is being recognised more and more, and the powers that be are taking and treating it as a major health problem. But like I've said, many, many times more still needs to be done to help these people that are in crisis with their mental health issues. And can I pick up the point from Councillor Charlotte Atkins and Councillor Jill Hood? I'm lobbying our MP, actually, and I've having talks with her about getting more input into mental health from the government, and that is my venture for the next few months, actually. So can I employ every one of you, as our leader has said, Alan White, about getting more money for the roads and everything? Can I employ every one of you to speak to your MPs and get as much and explain the problems that we've got with the mental health issues, and ask for more money and more input to be put so we can have more people trained in that to help these people that's in crisis? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Tom Loughborough-Rudd.
When it comes to mental health, it's a subject of which I don't need much introduction. I myself have used the services for mental health, so I know from personal experience what it is like. In Lichfield district, I think we're doing a good job, because outside our communities we are working. I was recently in a meeting in a consultation as a member of the public on the facilities that are going on in Lichfield and the transfer of them to a centralised unit to Stafford. I think I have a lot of respect for those members of staff, because they sat there taking issues on the things that I mentioned. The thing it doesn't mention here, addiction, which is one of the biggest causes of mental health, but we don't acknowledge it. But in Lichfield District, the District Council works with a charity called Better Way, Stars Recovery, Burton Addiction Centre, and is doing a bloody good job. I'm aware that mental health is an issue where there was a lot of COVID has caused a massive backlog. For example, I'm very pleased in this strategy that the guidance on autism is updated and has been updated, as I've seen regularly. I'm also I'm concerned about the waiting list. I myself have waited a year for medical review now. So I know what the services are like. I talk to constituents. And I'm working with a Member of Parliament for Lichfield on a vulnerable constituent who just falls outside the criteria. And this is what happens quite a lot, where people don't get the care and access they need to support the lives that they need. But that is because of government. As a county, I feel that, and I had friends of mine in the Black Country, so I know what it's like. I know what it's like to feel that your life is worthless, that you don't want to be here. I myself, it was a year that I tried to kill myself. The last time was a year ago last week. So, and when it comes to anxiety, I know, I see, I have it. Friends of mine have it. I think it's important that we remember mental health. It can affect every profession. I know a champion horse rider who suffers from mental health. I know a vulnerable constituent who can't leave his house has it. I know that there is a business owner in my division who accesses the mental health team. And I think that whilst we often criticise funding of mental health, we have to be aware that teams of mental health locally are stretched. In Lichfield, my CPM has 60 people, which he has to deal with, and there is there are two, I believe, only a few GPs, one of which works half a day. So we have to be fair to the NHS and press them on the funding, because mental health is something that is big. And I'm particularly pleased to see young people's mental health. I myself am not young anymore, but of course my nieces, my nephews and my own daughter. I've seen personally firsthand what the services are like for young people. And I think that it's important to recognise this. Most emails I get are about mental health in Birkwood North, and people who have been locked up, or single mothers who have been in a lounge in a lockdown, from members of the public. And I'd like to congratulate the work of our mental health champion, because the work she does is exemplary. I know that she personally knows what it feels like. And I feel like as a county, and I'd also like lastly to praise our officers for their mental health strategy. When they've supported me immensely, and the gratitude I feel to them is without character. So I know that there are problems with mental health, but this is a service which we should desperately praise, because the work they're doing is exemplary with the resources that they've got.
Councillor Loughborough, thank you for sharing so openly. Councillor Richard Cox.
Thank you, Chairman, and congratulations on your position, and Colin Greatrix as well. I very much welcome the strategy in terms of mental health. I think it affects us all without us probably realising, and it's a question of really, is it growing, the problem, possibly because of lifestyle? And I think it's been touched regarding homework, working from home. Is it the right thing for us? Are we not actually social animals in so that we need each other on more cases than not? And isolating ourselves is not the right way forward. And I think there's so much more as an organisation and other organisations that we actually have to address those issues that have come out from the pandemic. However, I think there is great work that is being done, and there is more to be done. I'm absolutely convinced of that. Only yesterday, I was happy to be invited to open a little session through mental health. A gentleman that lives in Kings Bromley, he suffers bipolar for 30, 40 years. And he's putting something back in to the issue by organising an event where Burton Mind and District were there, the Staffordshire Network for Mental Health, and I'm pleased to say that they actually are in the offices at Frog Lane in Lichfield. And there was a guy in terms of, I found very interesting, in through meditation in times of the mind. And we also had music that was songs that were written that really were strong messages. Wouldn't necessarily you're smiling at it, because the message is quite, to the point. So there is, I welcome it. I think there's a lot that we can still do more. And I'll just give you one more thought, and it's a quote from Martin Luther King. And I actually have it on my porch. when I come into the house, but more importantly, when I leave the house. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just make the first step. And it's often that first step that takes the biggest challenge of any individual that is suffering. And I implore, to anybody, if you are, it is about, don't see the whole staircase. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just make that first step. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Good advice, Councillor Cox. Councillor Johnny McMahon.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations on your appointment and to your deputy. Congratulations. I wasn't going to speak to this, but I'm just going to follow on really from what Richard Cox has been saying. The Resolution Foundation did a piece of work at the beginning of March of this year and found that between all income brackets, the degree of of emotional distress post-COVID varied between 46% at the lowest and 30% at the highest. This hits everybody. It's a community and it's a society problem. Tom, I'm really grateful that you managed to share what you did. It's difficult, and it's great that you have. I want to share with this chamber the fact that very good friends of ours in North Yorkshire lost their son at the age of 20, who died from suicide just before Christmas. David was a very keen footballer and he was a lovely lad, but he did have quite severe mental health problems throughout his life. That has drawn my attention through his parents to an organisation called Andy's Man Club. Now, there was a fellow called Andy in 2014 who died from suicide. And his wife thought, we must do something. We must do something about this situation. Not just leave it to the statutory services, but what can we do to sort it out? So she started an organisation called Andy's Man Club. There's now 120 Andy's Man Clubs in the whole country, one of which is based in Stafford, and I'm determined that there will be one in Cannock. Now, there's a couple of really good things about the business model of Andy's Man Club, if you like. The first is that all 120 of them meet at the same time in the same evening every week. It's Monday from 7:30 to 9 o'clock. So when you go to Andy's Man Club, if you've been bereft and suicidal, you know that it's not just the half dozen, it's not just the 10, it's not just the 20 people that go, that there's hundreds of people throughout the country are meeting at the same time. And we men find it difficult to express our emotions and come out with stuff. And that is the place where those folk who've been in a really, really dark place can go. The second thing about this business model is that I like is that it's only those who've been there before who run them. So when we start one in Cannock, there'll be somebody from another Andy's Man Club who will do it. I'll just be the gopher who goes around trying to organise a venue. It'll be somebody else from Andy's Man Club, so that when folk go, because they've been in such a bad place, they know that people will understand them. They know in NHS language they're seeing an expert patient, not just seeing Joe Bloggs who doesn't have a clue what they've been through. Now, I think that that's a great, great thing. And we've talked about the statutory services, but something like Andy's Man Club, we should really try and promote and really think about. But there's another aspect to this from a society point of view rather than a statutory point of view. And that's what can we do, particularly as community leaders. And it strikes me that the whole business of the mental health difficulties, which is huge, is multifaceted. There's no getting away from that. But one thing is absolutely clear to me, and is well researched and understood, is the fact that we live lives that are too isolated from each other. And I think as we as community leaders have an obligation to make sure that at each and every opportunity that we have, that we engage with people. If there's an option between phoning somebody or Zooming them, for goodness sake, or whatever it might be, or actually seeing them face to face, we see them face to face. If there's an opportunity to speak to somebody in the queue at the cash register, speak to them. We've got to start to bring society together again after COVID. And that's something each and every one of us can do, irrespective of the statutory services. And I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McMahon, and the very best of wishes trying to start that in Cannock. Can I just remind members that if you have already spoken on this item, then you can't speak again. You can only speak only speak once on any item. Councillor Philip Atkins.
Thank you, Chairman. I was at the health overview when this was presented, and what I said then I'll say now. Health scrutiny is very much about a wider thing than just looking at what the NHS is doing. And I've heard one or two speakers saying what we need is more money. No, we don't need more money. We just need people to, as Johnny McMahon say, is to help in the community. And some of you may have seen on television this morning at Breakfast News a small item about mental health in farming. The Farming Community Network is a voluntary organisation with over 400 volunteers nationally who are helping farmers actively and people in the country community get through some very difficult situations post-Brexit. Policy changes mean that the way that we farm is totally changed. You've got animal health disease, you've got bureaucracy, you've got banks not lending money, and because you work alone in the countryside, you very often haven't got anybody to talk to. There's family disputes. Farmland is going up in value like a rocket while there's no income. And people are farmers. I think the farming community at the moment, there are 3 suicides a week. A week in a very small community. So the Farming Community Network and those 400 volunteers need really praising. But I also know that because some of the work that I've done over the past year, that organisations like the NFU Mutual, Frontier, Cargill's, most of them are Agravista. There's a whole host of agricultural companies whose reps, agents are all trained in mental health and well-being. And when they go out, they're having a look at their clients, helping them and everything else. Farming Community Network will go into the level of going in and having a discussion with your bank manager and the relationship with your bank. Because some of these banks at the moment are causing hellish problems. I have one constituent who's had £500,000 overdraft facility withdrawn immediately. We want the money back now. They're uncaring. They need to be trained. So if you want to do something, strategies are fine, but delivery is another matter. And it's not a matter of more money. It's a matter about community. And Johnny McMahon is right about that as well. And I've joined Canberra. It's not about real ale. It's about what the pub provides. An environment that is a public house for men and women, young and old, to go and have a chat. Middle of the day, it might be lunch for older ladies and everything else. Night time, early doors, it might be young men coming back from work who want to discuss what's going on at home. You do not know what's going on at home, at work, and vice versa, and it affects both. And these are the sorts of things we need to be open about and talk and discuss. One of the things that Johnny would know, but didn't mention, that because of COVID and people not going out, there's a vitamin D deficiency outbreak at the moment. Go and have a look at the 9 symptoms of vitamin D deficiency. They are all mental health related. Lack of appetite, lack of drive, fed up, depression, the world's got wrong, anxiety. And so we need to be thinking a little bit outside the box. And I was disappointed at the health scrutiny where we've got a strategy. Hooray! Let's get on with the delivery, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Atkins. Councillor John Francis.
Thank you, Chairman. Just briefly, I learned, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday while he was doing my car, and I learned of somebody who committed suicide a couple of weeks ago, and he was 80 years old. And the thing was, it was all to do with the internet. He'd had emails and things, and they were threatening to take all his money out the bank. They were going to close his account. They were doing all sorts of things. And the internet is a serious issue on stuff like this. And the government have got to get to grips with it. And it really upset me that I found out that, I mean, for an 80-year-old to commit suicide, there's something seriously wrong with the system and socially in this country, there's no doubt about that. And another friend of mine, who was sorting my problems out with my knee before last Christmas, he committed suicide, and he ran the sports injury clinic in Stafford, and I still can't get to grips with the way he died. So there's some serious issues here, and Philip's quite right. And farming is a big issue because that's the thing. If people are not intermixing anymore socially, we've had deprivation for the last 2.5 years, and it's now all the things that have been caused by COVID, not only the health problems, but the mental health problems as well, and we've got to really get to grips with that. And anything that communities can do to get to grips with it and help people get over stuff like this, that's what we need to do. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Francis. Councillor Sahid Hussain.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be very brief. Chairman, we have to look after ourselves. I'm talking about all my colleagues, especially who are in public lives. Social media could be a very good, useful tool for listening and things. And very, very often, Chair, we are unjustly targeted by sometimes truth, sometimes half-truth, sometimes mistruth, with the members of publics and others as well. So I'm so grateful to our council's legal team and the support. I got it on my hour of need. So can I just share to our colleagues, if you have any issues with the social media, we have a wonderful team to help you out on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final speaker I have today is, on this item at least, Mark Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And can I take this opportunity to congratulate you and your Vice Chairman on your appointments, and I will refrain from talking about football, but there we go. I think over the years in my previous career, probably like Councillor Snape and Spencer, we've been to many sudden deaths where people have taken their own life. And I've been touched this myself in my own family, where my brother-in-law took his own life. And what I think when I look back at those, the vast majority, and from looking at the figures as well, the vast majority of people who take their own life are not known to services. They're not been to any mental health sessions. They've not seen anybody. So this is quite a hidden thing. So in that area, providing additional resources to deal with something that we don't know about or don't know is very difficult. And I think echo the thoughts and comments made by Councillor Atkins and Councillor McMahon about the fact that the answer to mental well-being, which is the prevention of mental health, lies with communities. In communities and what people do and people talking to each other. And the work that's done within communities that's led by a colleague, Councillor Wilson, is tremendous across the county. And not just those that we know about, but informal groups. All that is so important. I wasn't going to say any of that until just before I stood up. I was going to talk about the role of the Health and Wellbeing Board, and I still will. And mental health is one of our priorities on that, and it obviously mirrors exactly the priority of the health service. And we have worked together. And the health service are providing a lead, as we are providing a lead, to work together so that the strategy can be monitored. And as was said previously, we can check on the actual doing of the strategy, because at the end of the day, that is absolutely the important thing. A nice slimmed down strategy that's not just full of words, so that's great, which is clear and to the point, and that gives us a better opportunity. Health and Wellbeing Board, I think we rarely have any questions from the public about issues, but if members have got questions that they want us to answer so that we can utilise that as we go forward to monitor good mental health and that work stream, then please put them into the system. So this is all about this strategy, building strong and resilient communities and individuals who are in control of their own well-being. And it is primarily about adults, but there are lots of elements in it about children and young people that I absolutely welcome. You know, increasing access to mental health support in schools, improving access for children and young people around emotional health and well-being. And to that point, we commission Action for Children to provide that lower level mental health well-being support. That is not a statutory service. We're not required to do that. We do that because we feel Staffordshire it's the right thing to do. And although I couldn't find last year's report, the year before's report on what they're doing, and they provided interventions and one-to-one sessions with 1,800 young people during the year. So that is all good, positive, early work. And following on from that, so that there's equal access to support, the strategy talks about children that are care experienced. You know, our children either in care or care leavers can access support for their mental health and well-being. You know, and that is something that in the corporate parenting panel that we've recently been listening to the voice of the child about them understanding what they want and what their needs are. And item 6 in the strategy talks about that early intervention and mental health problems. So I'll give you an assurance from the Health and Wellbeing Board perspective that as we go forward, we will monitor the delivery of this strategy and welcome people's comments and thoughts so that we can use that to influence the questions we ask. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Alan White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I rise to thank Anne Edgeler for all her work. She is absolutely tremendous as our mental health champion, relentless, constantly pressing on the topic, and thank you, Anne, for all that work that you do on behalf of Staffordshire County Council. There are people in this chamber far more qualified to talk about mental health than I am, but I just wanted to raise a couple of points. First of all, I'm not good in my own bathwater. Working from home doesn't work for me at all. I need to be with people. I like to interact with them. I'm quite a gregarious type of person. And so for me, working from home is just a disaster. Because it makes me become insular. And I think that happens to a lot of people as well. We need to remind ourselves about that social interaction. But the worst thing that we have is this blasted thing, all right? So how many of you give in to temptation at 9:30 at night and just think, I'm just going to check my emails? And Councillor Hussain and I I know exactly who you get the emails from because I get the same ones too. We'll come up with something completely outrageous at 2 o'clock in the morning, which keeps you awake all night. You wake up, you then get up in the morning not having slept properly, exhausted, and then you've got to do a full day again. So this thing is the source of pain for so many people in this chamber. Put the thing down at 8 o'clock in the evening. You don't need to touch it again. Speak to your spouse, go out, have a pint with Philip Atkins. That's a right old laugh, that is. And honestly, Philip, it is. But let's start spending less time on this thing and also more time together. I'd also say about social media like Facebook, for example, it would be no effort at all for the Facebook scientists to come up with an algorithm which said, when you were on Facebook, Alan, you're on Facebook, John Francis is on Facebook at the same time, you're both bored and lonely, why don't you go out for a pint together? But it doesn't do that because it needs your eyeballs, it needs... It doesn't, it's a good job I'm not a delicate flower counsellor, Francis. But it doesn't do that, does it? Because it needs your eyeballs on the screen so the advertising revenue can go into Facebook. So there's lots of small things that can be done to make our lives a lot better when it comes to mental health. But the best thing you can do is don't do work after hours on this thing. Put it down, watch a bit of telly, interact with people, and just give yourself a chance to decompress, de-stress, and get a decent night's sleep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Leader. So I can't believe that he didn't want to go for a drink with me. Can I just add to that? If I could just add to that. One piece of advice that the outgoing chairman said to me was, leave your telephone in the office. As you sit here, and I did, and it's the first time we've been partied for quite a number of years. But I have to say, it is quite nice that, because to be fair, there's an awful lot going on here at the best of times. It's actually quite surprising how much is going on here. And the one thing I'm not getting is anything. So anything that's going on out there that people need me for, well, they've got to deal with it, haven't they? And so great advice from the leader. So I think we'll move on. So item 6 on the leader's statements is our people strategy 2023 and beyond. I have one speaker. Councillor Nigel Yates.
All right, thank you, Chair. Yes, I've been here for a relatively short period of time and playing catch-up. What I would like to sort of say is I'd like to applaud the quality of the knowledge and the enthusiasm of the staff who have come across. I must have now been made to feel very welcome, and that is a sign of a successful people's policy. And I was pleased, I was looking at the 4 pillars, and, you know, they absolutely fit everything, absolutely fantastic, really succinct. But what I do want to emphasise, as being on the member of the corporate overview panel, is this subject was raised, and one of the things which I want to sort of try and sort of impress is that, again, with the modern ways of working and the modern technologies, we're not sort of looking at people always having to relocate to us, and conversely, we're not looking at people who we've got who are well-trained and quality people and enthusiastic to relocate to places afar. People do work from home, people do work remotely, and as a consequence, we do run the risk of hemorrhaging staff who we've nurtured and we've trained to far-flung places. They could live in Staffordshire and work on the south coast, and vice versa somewhat. So it's very important that we keep that in mind. It's very important that we always have strategies to enrich the working experience and enrich the camaraderie and contact of that. So we're always having people coming in. And we also continually look at succession planning and training as own, and making sure that, you know, we are tailoring the fit for the kind of people who we want to suit, not just existing 2023 requirements, but the beyond requirements. We all threatened to a greater or lesser extent by the introduction of AI, which in some respects will be an absolutely fantastic thing. In some respects it could be, you know, as awkward as Facebook and things like that, so to speak. But what I would like is this to sort of, is for the councils at all levels, you know, and the county council to take a lead on the new qualifications, which are the T-level qualifications, not just for the education and the social services skills and the care services, but also for our officers who are coming through and who need to come through to replace the next set of strategic and highways thinkers and planners and people like that. And what I would like to state and put on record is that Biddle Town Council at the lowest tier is a Gold Award council, and we've employed an apprentice through the local college education system, and she is doing an absolutely sterling job. And that is something which we want to pursue. And that is one of the things which we want to push through and pursue at district level. And I'd like to see at county level, if it's not already been done, but the links, when you walk into Stafford, you've got the links to Wolverhampton University. We know we've got the links to Staffordshire University. Let's get these vocational courses, especially with the advent of T-level courses, tailor-made to our next succession of employees who come into this organisation. Thank you.
I have no further speakers, so I'll call in Leader Alan White.
Very briefly, Chairman, it'd be remiss of me to pass over this item without thanking all the members of staff of Staffordshire County Council for all the hard work that they do. This people's strategy is about making sure that they can deliver the best they possibly can in great circumstances, and I'd just like to briefly thank those staff for all the hard work they do year in, year out.
Thank you, Councillor, and I would like to add my thanks to that. So we move on to item 7 of the Leader Statement, which is the Staffordshire County Council Local Flood Risk Management Strategy. We have a number of speakers on this. Councillor Charlotte Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to find out, really, what difference this revised strategy will make to residents affected by a flooding problem. Because too often, residents encounter an organisation, they say it's not our problem, pass on to another organisation, it's not our problem either, not me, Gov, you know, and it is deeply frustrating when people have that problem, a crisis, and no one will take responsibility. So will this revised strategy mean that residents will get a better response, a coordinated response, rather than them having to go from pillar to post to try to get a proper solution to whatever problem they're facing? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Philip Atkins.
Thank you, Chairman. I could probably answer Charlotte's question, actually, because I have a village in my division that's got a local flood risk management strategy in place. Storm Daniel caused about 11 houses and 2 premises to be flooded in the village, and as a result of that, when you drive past, well, I didn't try to go through the water, but you see somebody sitting on the bonnet of the car and it's abandoned and all the rest of it, you know, you can see you've got problems. And the Marchington is a really good volunteer village, and they soon said, look, we've got to get onto this, and it took ages to get the fire service, who've got the civil contingency unit, to agree that the roads could be closed. And closing a road is a really long process, but when you've got 3 or 4 foot of water are likely to be there, it's really quite critical. So it took an awful long time to get this done. And we've got 3 boxes around the outside of the village with all the kit there for the volunteers to put everything out. Would you believe somebody nicked one of the boxes within about 3 months? All they'll find inside is a reflective jacket and some signs saying flooded road ahead. Anyway, we solved that. But the flood risk management plan specifically outlines the responsibilities of the different agencies of the things that they are responsible for. And the main one is the Environment Agency, because they're responsible for making sure that water flows freely. And the other one is East Staffordshire Borough Council, in that particular one, that when houses are developed, take into account where the water goes and the flood risk management of that. The county highways, we've got responsibilities about, as I've said, closing the roads when they're flooded, making sure the gullies and everything else is in place. It's quite a comprehensive document, but it's taken a long time to get put together. I've shared it with the parish council and the local borough councillor, who happens to be Philip Hudson, and they now know who to go to if there's a problem, and hopefully there isn't, because you know, having your house flooded at a regular level is not a nice experience, because it brings in a whole host of things about insurance and everything else. So I'd just like to praise the officers buried in the deep bowels of this organisation who do the flood risk strategies, because they are doing a really good job. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Davies-Smith.
Thank you, Chairman. I unfortunately experienced quite a number of floods back in my Lichfield District Council days, and to have a phone call to say that there's a flock of sheep floating down the River Trent and are about to hit Burton is not a fun phone call. I've experienced my village being flooded and so many things have happened. And I have to echo the comments that are made about the super work that the team do. I would particularly highlight that we now, I believe, have new powers for how we can deal with ditches. And so I think that if we're looking at the work that we're able to do that is flood prevention, that's going to be a major issue in how we actually look at alleviating floods as we approach this horrendous climate change that's coming to us. But it's an integrated solution that we have to look at. It's how our highways team keep the gullies clean, how we're able to work together. And coming on to working together and taking Councillor Charlotte Atkins' point, I recently have an experience where we had a flood of foul sewage into someone's house several times. And I have the services saying, not us, Gov, it's your fault. And they push that off for days and days and days before they say, oh, actually it is us. And I just wonder how we as a county, with primary responsibility for flood relief, can actually talk to our utilities and say, we have got to work together to be more effective in the way that we are controlling the massive increase that we're going to be seeing in flooding. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Jeremy Pert.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to take a whistle-stop tour of the Eccleshall division, but with the aim of encouraging what David Smith was talking about, which is partnership working. So Eccleshall has become the epicentre for increased levels of flooding, and certainly if I went back to 2014, when the centre of the town was being resurfaced, we approached Severn Trent Water and asked them, as a utility, to look at seeing whether they could update the historic setting and antiquated drains within the town, with the aim of making sure the carrier drains were of a certain size. They declined to do anything at that time. But I think everyone needs to play their part, including the utility companies. Back in 2020, flash floods in and around, these floods, make no mistake, wreck people's lives. Flash floods in Coates Heath and the Cranberry area inundated many houses, and that led to the loss of two of my residents' lives who had lived through some similar flooding 25 years previous and weren't prepared to do it again. But I do want to pay tribute to the work undertaken by the retiring parish council chairman of Coates Heath and Standon Parish Council, Peter Banks, who worked alongside county council, landowners and other interested parties to make sure that there was no area left within that parish that hadn't had the benefit of his rallying call to make sure that communities were left in floodwater. And I have to say that was particularly strong community leadership from that gentleman and actually was an exemplar for everyone else for us to follow. In Eccleshall, however, the County Council in 2021 spent £250,000 on the Stone Road to alleviate that from flooding because of the building of a new housing estate at the top of the hill, with plenty of concentrated rainwater coming off roofs and tarmac flowing to the bottom of the hill, because that's what water does. And that inundated many houses, so I welcome that investment. But I think we need to think more strategically and wider about why we're getting flooding. Some of it is climatic, and some of it is what we do to our own communities. I think we need to invest more preemptively because what used to be classed as a 1-in-100-year event now seems to be every few years. and we need to have greater surge and storm capacity, and we need landowners to take their responsibilities seriously, as many actually do. But we also need the water utilities and drainage boards to stay the course and work with communities to resolve that flooding. And certainly we need the Environment Agency to take their responsibility seriously and stop some of the nonsense that goes on in the name of nature. And we also need to actually pay tribute to some of the work that is done through people like the flood action groups. We have one in Eccleshall led by Stuart Perrin, and they do a fantastic job of making sure that we're all held to account. But I think my main messages are that we need to anticipate what's coming better. We need to ensure everyone is working in partnership to deliver the solution and co-produce the solutions with communities. And we also need to thank the officers, particularly within the Specialist Highways Drainage team, who, in my view, do a fantastic job with the resources that they have in terms of resolving some of the flooding in communities.
Thank you. Councillor Keith Flunder.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to really have another fairly good news story of what's been happening in my own division. Over many years, there's been a National Flood Forum that the Parish Council have been working with and on. And the officers that have come from the Highways team, has already been mentioned, have now come forward. They've already managed to stop flooding behind a row of houses in Stockton Brook, which was something that we worked on almost immediately. We are now doing another set of work at the moment for upstream work in bunds and things across farmers' fields and everything else, and working with the farming community there. And if that wasn't enough, quite recently the National Flood Forum, which we've heard from as well, has come back into the picture as well. And we've now got two different paths that we're looking at now. And in answer to Charlotte Atkins' answer to there, the National Flood Forum is now specifically within my division taking on board the residents who have flooded over recent incidents, and they are setting up a group now at the moment to be able to look at that. And there's money being put aside now to invest in their own defences within the village itself, the old part of Endon Village. And I do think that this two-pronged attack that we're looking at now, both long-term, short-term, and hopefully so to be able to get ready for the next flood, and as we've already heard, to get a community of volunteers who are also willing to be able to put time into looking after their own community and putting in monitoring devices that will help and do everything that we need to do. So I'm very hopeful that after 3, 4, 5 years of stagnation, that things seem to be moving forward, and I'd like to thank Jamie Cooper and his team for doing such a great job as far as I'm concerned in Endon. Thank you.
Councillor Nigel Yates.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just picking up on an earlier point, the extra energy being put in the system by climate change is obviously creating a lot more volatility, and there's a lot more chance of serious cloudbursts and rainwater events and things. So surface water flooding is a major issue. And it's not just the usual suspects of the rivers, you know, the main rivers, the River Trent, Blythe and whatever running downstream. It's actually happening, you know, with estates that floods in, that goes into this sewer and combined rainwater drainage systems, and we're getting a heck of a lot of persistent incidents of pollution within the streams and in the upper catchment areas, which obviously has a knock-on effect into the main rivers and things. So we really need to be pushing the utility companies to make sure that they do their bit as well, and start working on these combined sewer systems, which really are not fit for purpose. They were put into estates in the interwar and the post-war period. There's been an awful lot of additional cul-de-sacs next to roads and infill built, and it's just put too much strain on when there's so much volatility in the system. And certainly in my area, the Stafford Moorlands, we've had 3 significant pollution incidents which have effectively killed all the life which is in the streams, and that fits in with the flooding prevention and control and the investment. It's a big news story this morning that the utility companies sort of overseeing board, I don't know, I forget what the exact name of it is, but they've acknowledged that they need to put some serious investment in. They've announced £10 billion of investment, they've announced we're paying for it, boo-hoo. But we need to push, and we need to make sure that some of these older estates, the drainage systems are made fit for purpose. We save the rivers in the upstream, which means we're safeguarding the rivers for everybody else in the downstream.
Thank you. Councillor Derek Hookfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't thank you again for being the chairman, being as I've already done it once. Can I just say, I think we've got this problem in quite a number of places. I've got it in 3 places in Silverdale, where on a regular basis, when we have heavy rain, it tends to flood. If you go on Silverdale Road, if you can get along Silverdale Road, you're a miracle worker. If you come down by the Whammy, right, in Nutton, right, the same thing applies there. So we've got quite a few of these different things that go on. Sometimes it's because of how the roads go, because like same as us, we're in a valley, right, and that doesn't help a lot. And then you've got all the springs, right, that doesn't help a lot. I've got a daughter, lives in Keswick, got a bed and breakfast. She's been flooded 3 times, and it's been 4 foot up the walls all through the house, you know, and it's heartbreaking, right? An old lady just on Silverdale Road there, right, she was flooded, and all the sewerage and everything else, right, went all into her house. Terrible. It was 12 months before she could move back in. And she had a problem because she didn't go to, right, she had everybody, they didn't really want to know, right, and that's the problem we've got, where people really, they push you from one place onto another, right, and to me, that is all wrong. And I've got another one in Pepper Street, exactly the same, an old lady that lives on her own, right? The same thing is applying, right? And I try to do as much as I can for these people, but you can only do so much. And what they're saying, and I'm going to quote the Lake District again, right? What they're saying up there, the more trees you plant, the more they soak up the water, right? And we've just got a project that's just been done where we plant more trees. So can I just suggest to everybody, while I'm talking at this moment in time, right, can you plant more trees within your area? And if you plant more trees in your area, it might stop some of the water coming into my area. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Sage advice. I have one more speaker before I bring in the Cabinet member, Councillor John Francis.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be brief. My division has the Penk and the Sow. The Penk runs into the Sow, and the Sow runs into the River Trent, which is why my division is called Trent Valley. All the house building that's gone on in the last 5 to 10 years, and a lot in my division, has started to cause major problems. We've had flooding where we've never had flooding before, particularly at Blackheath Lane, which has suddenly started to be up to a foot deep. Our highways flood risk management team are fantastic, and they go out and sort the problem out. But it's no good building houses where the rainfall is getting heavier, there's tarmac and houses and concrete on greenfield sites, which used to soak up the water and ease it down into the riverbeds before it actually caused a problem. Now it runs off, and as has been alluded to before, the Severn Trent or whoever is responsible, when they're designing these estates, have got to make sure that they've got balancing ponds and all the right kit to make sure that the water doesn't end up causing serious issues. And in my division, it's causing serious issues. As I've alluded to before, Stafford is now a building site, it's a big housing estate, and it's causing us major problems because there's been no future-proofing, no actual construction work to compensate for these problems. And I haven't seen any forward plans that are going to alleviate this problem from new housing developments in the future that go on greenfield sites. And I might say some of the big tin sheds that we put up around the Stafford area contribute to this, because the amount of water that comes off them when it rains every year is phenomenal. You're talking about thousands of gallons of water. And I despair that this hasn't been looked at before in more detail. Thank you, Chairman.
You need a lot of trees, John.
Thank you, Councillor Francis. Councillor Simon Tagg.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Firstly, congratulations on your appointment and also the Vice Chair, and obviously well done to the outgoing Chair for his work over the last couple of years. It's worth noting, firstly, thank you for all the comments that have been made about the strategy and the flooding issues, and I agree with most of what has been said. And it's worth noting that this local flood risk management strategy covers flooding instances of 5 or more residential properties that are internally flooded, and also 2 or more businesses properties. And as has been pointed out by members today, flooding incidents cause upset and distress to residents, across our county. And our county has experienced at least 15 significant storm events since 2000, and 9 of those have occurred between 2018 and 2022. And these events have highlighted the need for an updated local flood risk management strategy, which takes into account lessons learned from those flooding instances, and also changes to national policy, because the Environment Agency have published an updated national flood and coastal erosion management strategy, which sets out their vision for the climate resilient places which we need, echoing what Councillor Francis has just said through the planning infrastructure, etc., so that we can have a more resilient approach to house building and how we manage our wetlands and our floodplains in the future. So in response, our strategy, Mr Chairman, covers and creates a vision which aligns with national policy and what we've learned over the years through the flooding instances within our county. And we went out and we consulted with local residents across the county, and we had a good response and a positive response to the draft strategy. And we're confident that this revised strategy will help us better prepare for future flood events and protect the county and its residents, and importantly also infrastructure. We've got 5 key areas. 1 is improving and understanding flood risk and preparing for flood events. 2 is managing flood risk and creating those new developments in sustainable areas. 3 is seeking and securing funding for flood alleviation schemes to work with partners. Members have already pointed out where we've already done that. We've got a good record of using flood levy money to help on these alleviation schemes. And also work with others in our community and other partners to be more aware, to make them more aware and more informed of flooding issues, and also to promote an effective management of drainage and flood defence issues. We've got £6 million in what's called the FAIR project. We always have to have a look at this to say what it means. Flood, aware, informed and resilient, and that's going to be a scheme which residents are going to notice a difference with, businesses will notice a difference with, and also it will have partners working together to manage flood issues as they arise. So I think I'd like to thank, as all the members have, our flood management team for the work that they are doing and have been doing and will do in the future, and how they're working with partners such as Fire and Rescue, the districts and boroughs, and also those local groups as well, which members have highlighted. And also like to thank local members, as Councillor Flunder said and others. They've been heavily involved in ensuring that these schemes meet the requirement locally and ensuring that they come on stream as quickly as possible. And also, just to reassure members, and Councillor Williams knows this as Highways portfolio holder, that we are now building a closer relationship with the Water Authority, Severn Trent, South Staffs Water, to ensure that they are aware of the issues as we are, and that we can work together as a team to sort out some of the issues. So really pleased with this strategy, and I think overall positive responses, and hopefully in the future we can deal with the more issues we're going to get because of climate change, and we have a plan in our strategy to deal with that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Take. Moving on to the Leader Statement number 8, or Section 8, which is the Staffordshire Better Care Fund 2022 to 2024. Councillor Gillian Pardacey.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we're told that we have a new social care workforce strategy, and in order to support recruitment and retention of home care staff, can I ask please if that includes a rise in wages, apart from the usual taking into account of inflation? And can I ask, please, what is meant by supporting recruitment and retention of home care staff by offsetting some cost pressures? Could I have some clarification on that, please? Thank you.
Councillor Jill Hood.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just wondering if the leader is aware that some elderly people who've been with a an established care company can just be lifted from that contract at a minute's notice. I had an example of an elderly gentleman, 90 years old, paraplegic, 3 visits a day from a care agency. He received a phone call, he passed them on to me, and they said to me, we're not going to be able to look after him anymore. And when I asked the question, it's so vague, it's unbelievable. I still haven't got to the bottom of it. Through the county council, he has been offered another place. It's absolutely diabolical. I called on him the other day. I'm not going to describe what I found, but totally unsuitable. So now we have to go through the procedure with this 90-year-old gentleman. And he's not a feeble gentleman. He may be 90 years old, but highly intelligent, just paraplegic. We now have to go through the procedure of begging the county council for another placement. I'm not looking forward to it. We begin tomorrow. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I have no further speakers on this item, so I believe Julia Jessley is not available to speak on it, so I'll call Mark Sutton as a replacement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some of the specific questions that Councillor Hood's just asked, we'll have to ask the Cabinet member for Health and Social Care to specifically answer those. The previous question that was asked about the workforce strategy, yeah, that has been developed recently, has recently gone through the system. But again, the specific details of how they all impact on adult social care. Again, I'll ensure that the Cabinet member provides an answer to that question. The whole of the BCF type thing has been in place since 2013, and it's the way the health and the local authority work together to use that funding, mainly around the areas of adult social care, reducing pressures on the NHS, supplying discharge from hospitals, and ensuring social care market support. But again, as I said, the specific answers to those questions, I will ensure that the members get an answer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Alan White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The point about offsetting some cost pressures is contained within the Cabinet paper concerning the Better Care Fund, paragraph 9b. We want to enable more capacity in the home care market, maximise current capacity, and to help providers with issues around recruitment and retention. The Council awarded a recurrent fee uplift of 12% from April 2022 to reflect the cost pressures facing home care providers. This has supported recruitment and retention and helps reduce the number of people waiting for home care. We have set up an independence at home provided in-house to provide additional capacity to meet people's needs in a timely way and offer re-ablement for some to increase their independence. So the Cabinet report, Councillor Pardisi, addresses this in some detail. Can I suggest that if you have the time, just pull the Cabinet report, take a look through the details, and you'll see how those cost pressures are offset. To Councillor Hood's point, I can't talk about specific details of individual cases, and you're nodding, so that's a recognition of that fact. But it is the case that from time to time, during my time as being the portfolio holder, which was a considerable period of time, that sometimes care providers do run into financial difficulty, they run into staff difficulties, and so a contract can end very suddenly for the people in receipt of it. The usual format is there's an assessment undertaken, and we provide follow-on care based on that assessed need. But sometimes we have to move people quickly because they need support immediately, and sometimes we need to reassess the quality of that support when it happens. So if I've spoken to Mrs. McIver. If we pick up with you afterwards, we can go into some detail about the case you're referring to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We may move on to item 9 on the leading statements, which is Staffordshire Day and Coronation.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you very well. I do apologise. Yeah, I can't let this item go by with highlighting a young lady in my division, Leanne Al-Kadiki. She was awarded an honours last year in the Queen's Honours List. She's a mother of 4 children. She got a full-time job with the MOD countrywide. She has time for charity work and community work. And I'm proud to say that she's the chairman of our Bossett's community group. But she was invited to the coronation and she got a front row seat. She could have touched the king when he walked by. She was on television and it was really, really interesting. So, but the thing that what she did do, she was also invited to the party at the night as well. So it's really good to see somebody in our community be as recognised for all the community work that they're doing, which is absolutely fantastic. But what she did do, she's also works a lot with the children in one of the local schools, and she took a little teddy bear in a handbag. And so when she came back, she presented it to the school and said, "Children, you couldn't go, but your little teddy bear did." So she presented it to the school, which I thought was a lovely idea. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Simon Take.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think we all really enjoyed the coronation weekend particularly, and I think just from a perspective up in our borough, we held a King's Coronation Market on the Saturday morning, which was really well attended and a fun event as well for children also. We also screened the coronation live at our Brampton Museum and had a party out in Brampton Park. And of course, we had a civic church service like a lot of districts did on the Sunday, which was really well attended in our town centre. I think also loads of garden parties across the borough. I was sitting in my office signing them off as leader of the borough council because that's one of the delegated decisions I have is to close roads for street parties, and we had loads of those. And it wasn't a street party. I was really pleased to attend a garden party on a green space in my division at Repton Drive, where we've planted a number of trees over the years on this green space, and we've protected it as a carbon capture area as well. We've also planted just this year a fruit orchard as well. But the residents had got together and put a bench there, and I funded through my community fund for part of the bench installation, and also for the little party that they had. And I was invited along, and the bench was unveiled, and we had some cake, and it started to rain, but that's just typical. But it was attended by 30 residents or so who live in that road, and it just shows how the community came together. And we saw that across the borough, as I'm sure we saw it across the whole county. I think it was a really great celebration for us all, and that's what I want to say just from Newcastle perspective. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Jill Hood.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a wonderful opportunity to actually brag about our division's chairman. I had a heck of a week. I'm going to share it with you. So I had my daughter's wedding on the Sunday in Tutbury, which was remarkable, wonderful people. On the Thursday, we had the elections. That was a good result for me too. On the Friday, we went along to the count. We all joined together. Pretty nerve-wracking experience. On the Saturday in my division, I have to say that the town was packed. And I was one of those in the town all day. I didn't see one iota of the coronation, but I do have it recorded and will watch it. On the Sunday, we had over 2,500 people come into our high street for our festival, our street party. It was an amazing event. Everyone celebrating the coronation, and it really was a truly great experience. I wonder if I can just play on the reasons that my division has so many street parties, festivals and events. Many years ago, I was one of 5 who started the Stone Food and Drink Festival in the town. And it was obvious after the second year that speaking to people, they were coming to live in Stone and other parts of Staffordshire because we were a town that was doing events. And I know a lot of you also have the same ethos in your towns. And it's great, we've spoken about pets at home, and I personally know quite a few people that are being employed there and other commercial outlets in the town that people go and work at because they like our town. But they come to the town because we've got a unique high street, we've got independent shops, and they like that. Plus, we're supported by a few of the big chains. So they spend in our shops during these events. They browse the shops. That money goes into the local economy. It's like a huge cycle, and it's great. And every opportunity, and God bless the King, he provided us with the opportunity to have the most amazing event. And I just thank you, Chairman, for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to your daughter who's just got married. Councillor Paul Snape.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't know why parts of the country didn't support the coronation, our King and Queen, but I know that in Staffordshire it seems to be overwhelming that majority of people did. I'd like to start thanking our Cabinet Member for Community, Councillor Victoria Wilson, our officers, who got the thing off the ground really across the county, putting things out, allowing us to use our community fund to pay for some of the events, to support some of the events. Even though the community fund didn't start till after coronation, we were allowed to backdate it. So that was great. And Edger talks about a lady who went for coronation. Well, I know of a lady who sat next to her, Maureen Rossini. They went down together. Maureen is a former head guide for Staffordshire. Lives, I think, she lives in the Stone district. And basically just two great people who've been rewarded for their work in the community. And I'd like to thank people in my division, the Cannock Bowling Green Club, which is the oldest bowling green in Staffordshire, and it's about the second or third in the country. They had a wonderful day there. Everyone dressed in red, white and blue. A bowling competition with guests invited. The MP was there, Amanda Milling, and she actually judged the best dressed person. So we know that things like the coronation, Staffordshire Day bring people together. So really as county councillors, we should be supporting these things, putting it out there, letting people in our division know what's going on. Also let them know that we've got money that we can support them with if need be. It's not a lot of money, but it will help them. And that's what being a county councillor, as I said before, is all about. It's going out there, doing the work and getting things done, not moaning afterwards when things haven't been done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Syed Hussain.
Thank you, Chair. Like Jill Hood, we have also a very good Thursday. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very pleased to see the recognitions of the contributions of our volunteers in our county in this report, and I would like to extend my tribute to them and what they are doing across our county. And Mr. Chairman, the truth is that the inflationary pressure makes everyone poor, and those small organizations are really struggling to keep their doors open, and they have best of intentions to do so many good things in the community, but because of this extra pressure, they cannot do their own things very properly. So I hope the administrations and wherever possible, we can do the lobby with Westminster as well to address those issues as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one more speaker before I bring the chairman in. Councillor Richard Cox.
Thank you, Chairman. I will be brief. I endorse what Councillor Snape has just said regards the community funding. Thank you, the Cabinet Member, for extending that to open it up post the event. Certainly a village within my division, Longdon Community Group, have benefited from the money. And I have to say, the way that they've put their application in is itemised down to the last penny, and also they supplied photographs. But I can tell you from attending their parish council on only this week, what an event it was for them. I didn't unfortunately get there myself, but it was recognised as a fantastic day in terms of the celebrating the King's coronation. So my thanks to Victoria, and yeah, it was a great thing to do. Thank you.
Councillor Victoria Wilson.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, if I can congratulate the Vice Chairman and yourself, Mr. Chairman. Who knew that 6 years ago, when we were standing at the coffee machine, that you would reach these dizzy heights? And congratulations to you both. So
Sorry, Councillor Wilson, did you mean I'm higher than everybody else, or?
So there were 14 babies born in Staffordshire on May the 6th. Some of them... Some of them were born in... Some of them were in Tamworth, they were in Lichfield, in Burton, in Stafford and in Cannock. Sadly, Chairman, I don't think any of them will be named Phil or Colin. I'm sorry to say. But in recognition of this, the County Council is providing these infants with a commemorative mug, which will be handed out here at the County Council offices imminently. And it's just a lovely thing. What a wonderful recognition of a special day. The events around the county on the 6th of May and the day after were really magnificent to behold. Obviously, street parties, as we mentioned before, markets and garden parties, brass bands and lots of other spectacles were to commemorate the wonderful occasion of our King's accession to the throne. And it's really, really important to remember that these events were organised by local groups, volunteers who selflessly gave their time, as we've already heard, to put on a really good show for their communities. And we currently have over 500 regular volunteers just within the County Council and hundreds more in the county. And we're so grateful and so full of admiration to each and every one for everything that they do for us. And I think an earlier item we were talking about mental health, and we recognise as well that mental health and working out there in the community and volunteering and being part of your parish is so beneficial to everybody, and I can't recommend that enough. Can I just remind this council, as a couple of members have already said, that we do have the community fund up and running now, and people are still invited to apply retrospectively for coronation event funding, and I know Councillor Cox and Councillor Smith have already made representations on behalf of their communities, and I do look forward to seeing more of those from the embarrassment of riches we have in our voluntary groups in this county. So we're absolutely delighted to be able to invest in these groups with the funding that I've just mentioned, and also with our new volunteer framework, which is coming out next month. And I'd personally like to thank them all for all that they do and all that they will do in the course of the next 12 months in this wonderful county of Staffordshire. And if I may just add, God save the King. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I agree with you about our voluntary groups, and part of my 12-month term, my intention, I have a meeting this afternoon about it, is to work much closer with the Vice Chairman, with voluntary groups. That's our absolute intention for the coming year. Members, it's 1:05. Can I suggest that we break for lunch? I will ask officers to ring the division bell at 5 minutes to 2, and we will start promptly at 2 o'clock. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch. Debbie, are we good to go? We are on item 10 of the leader's statement.
People start sitting down.
Ladies and gentlemen, can you please take your seats? Members. Thank you. Could we want to shut that door? Do you press a button or something? Oh, mic's on the way. Members, a warm welcome back to the afternoon session. We carry on the leader statement, so we move to item 10 on the leader statement, which is Staffordshire's quality of life. I have no speakers on this item. Leader, do you want to come in? Okay. Moving on, if members could settle down just a little bit rather than an after-lunch excitement. Item 11, which is the UK's real estate and investment, UK's real estate and investment infrastructure. Have I got it right? Yeah, that's brilliant. And so far I have no speakers on this here as well. Sorry, in that case I will call the leader to speak. Thank you. Unless you as the leader, Mr. Uckfield, I'll call the leader to speak.
So, colleagues will be delighted to know that during the lunch break, I did pull Councillor Francis to one side and said, don't lie when you say, I'll be brief. Because he never is, but I will be brief. UK Reef is taking place at the moment in Leeds, and it's the place where people with land and people with money and people who put buildings up come together to look at the opportunities around the United Kingdom for investment. Staffordshire has a stand there. It has been absolutely fabulously successful. We've been able to make contacts with big investors, pension funds and the like. And what we're doing is we're getting out there and making sure that the world at large knows what Staffordshire has to offer. There is a great deal of interest in Staffordshire. There's a brochure that we've produced. I would implore you all to get hold of the brochure. If not, I'm sure we could circulate to all members, Chief Executive, the brochure. It highlights each district and borough's offer, the sort of land availability, what the opportunities are, in an absolutely beautiful way. So I'm really, really pleased to say that the UK Reef event for Staffordshire was hugely successful. It didn't cost us a great deal because we've got a great deal of sponsorship from the private sector to make that happen. And I'm looking forward to the results of further investment into this county, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Leader. Moving on to item 12 of the Leader Statement, which is entitled Recruitment. Once again, I have no speakers on this item. Leader, do you want to come back in? No? Okay. Moving on, it says, and finally, and I presume you've all read what and finally means. It means this is John Henderson's final full council meeting, and I presume I will have some speakers on this. I'll call Councillor Snape in.
Thank you, Chair. I know it's the after-lunch session, we're being brief. Just to say, John is short, but he's not brief, I agree. Mr Henderson. Mr Henderson, as the outgoing Chair, can I thank you for the support you've given me for the last 2 years? The various functions we've been to, and everywhere I go, people talk about you. A lot from the army community, but they always sing your praise. Everybody knows you, and it really has been great to say, well, yes, I work with the man. He's a first-class leader, and it's great that we've had him in the county for the 8 years. So on behalf of myself, the people I've been working with, chains from all over the county, other chief executives or managing directors from not just here but Telford and the areas that we meet with, they all sing your praises, so we know how hard you've worked on behalf of us with the networking you've done and getting things done in Staffordshire. So can I wish you a happy retirement? I won't be at the meeting on the 7th of July. I am tied up elsewhere, unfortunately. Can I wish you a happy retirement and thank you for everything you've done for Staffordshire.
Thank you, Councillor Stape. It would appear that the the screen has finally given up the ghost. So I can see the green lights, and I'll call the green lights. Oh. Relief all round. Councillor Sawyer to say.
Thank you, Chairman. His absence will be keenly missed. And I pretty closely had his advice for past 6 years. And during COVID, we did very closely work together as well. And John has very passionate connections with Afghan communities, which in my division, there are so many Afghan communities living in there. And John gracefully, he also understood the Diary language as well. And in many occasions, I have some frustrations through the, as I mentioned earlier, about the Facebook comments and distasteful emails or some other issues. He always came up as a mentor or as a guardian. I met so many teachers or vice chancellors in my university life or managers in examinations. I found he is the finest civil servant. I wish him a very good retirement. Thank you.
Councillor Charlotte Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, I just want to thank you on behalf of myself and the group for all the work you've done, and also the generous way you shared your time with us. And you know, you were always available to us, which we very much appreciated. And I suppose what I found refreshing was that if we asked you a question, we got a straight answer. You know, this is pretty unusual in political circles. And that was fantastic to actually know that we get a straight answer from you and that we could ask you anything we needed to know. And that was just amazing and very reassuring. And of course, your leadership, particularly during the COVID pandemic, was absolutely second to none. So whatever you choose to go on to do, I'm sure you'll obviously make a great success of it. But all I can say is it will be a very hard act to follow. And thank you very much for everything you've done for us and for Staffordshire. Thank you.
Councillor Philip Atkins.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. John's counting interims, John's my 6th chief executive, because John sitting next to you was an interim for a short while. And casting my mind back to the appointment process for a chief executive is quite arduous and thorough. I have to say that. And at the time of your appointment, we were looking for somebody to get the organisation concentrating on delivery, because we'd done all the changes that or most of them, that we thought would need as the controlling group to be put in place in the new environment of government at the time. And there was a really strong list to go through. And I know the leader was on about social media earlier on, but it was a YouTube video that you made very obscurely when you were in officer commanding the British Army in Germany, that made me realise that you were running a county council with about 9,000, I can't remember how many troops, and 30-odd thousand hangers on, education, hospital, housing, you name it. And your job at the time was to organise a different sort of army in Germany. But as time's gone on, everybody's forgotten that, well, that might have been about delivery and getting things done here. But the last 3 or 4 years have been quite unique. And I'm quite certain if we hadn't got your particular organisational skills while the pandemic rained down on us and having to make decisions out in the field, which is something that you were quite used to, having built hospitals in Afghanistan and 7 languages and various other things. I think we served our public in Staffordshire really well under your leadership when the pandemic struck. We're now into a different situation of recovery and everything else, and I can recommend retirement because you'll never be so busy don't think you're going to be sitting at home with Shona. Shona's probably got a list of jobs a mile long, but, you know, that for you to do. But there's a lot of things out there to do, and your skills will be needed, John, I'm quite certain. Even if it's me ringing up and saying, this Freelander that I've just bought needs a prop shaft changing, how the hell do I do it? You know, so I do know you love your engineering still. Having been around with you on various visits, yes. Anyway, that's your background, and I'm really glad that we don't sing the 6th verse of the national anthem anymore. The 6th, you'll know the one about Marshall Wade. And you know, and I think you're a really good example of that flag on the chairman's left, and a matter of serve the community that you work in and for. So from me, John, and from everybody else probably, but thank you very much. It was a wise appointment.
Councillor Mark Winnington.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. John, I had to say something. I know I'm gobby and people say, you always stand up saying something, but you've been such a help in the time you've been here. Philip's gone through the selection process and everything. You've been excellent. And what's really sort of resonated with me is your management style. And it's somewhat like having a velvet glove, but with an iron glove inside it. So people think you're being nice to them when really you give them a little bit of a tap. And that's what you need. You need leadership in an organisation like this. And as you go down through the organisation, what you've put in place filters down. And I'd like to say thank you, because I think the organisation is much stronger for what you've done. Thank you, John.
Councillor Janet Eagland.
My story is different to what I've heard here so far. John and I have something in common. John started here as our executive on the same month that I became chairman and sat on that chair there, where you are chairman now. It was a very good year. It was one instance I remember, and I'm sure John might. My secretary, the civic secretary that was there, Jill, said, we've had a visitor today, Madam Chairman, and he went to the wrong building. He went to place 1 instead of coming here. And the staff apparently had told him on reception, we haven't got a chairman. So she said, don't you think we ought to have some introductions done? So I said, well, I'll mention it to John Henderson and see what he says. Well, I did, and with due course, John being who he is, he arranged for me to go to place 1 and 2 to meet the staff, especially the ones on the desk that didn't realise we had a chairman. So we went from top to bottom, every floor, and he introduced me very well to everybody that was there, and everybody called him John, and it was so friendly, the atmosphere, and it clicked then just how easy he was with talking to people. Especially, there was no boss and person, there was just an arrangement that was really good. So I was really pleased, to have this privilege of going all over the floor, over the building, and and they all seemed to know me. And I thought, well, that's a bit strange, nobody knows me, and now everybody does. And then I thanked John, as usual. I said, thanks, John. We've had a lovely afternoon. Thanks very much. I came back in the building, and it was a few days later, my secretary said to me, well, you'll never guess, Madam Chairman, she said, I've just found an email, she said. Mr. Henderson had sent an email round to every department in place 1 and 2 and told them I was coming, that you were coming. So that big welcome. So he did make it very, very easy for me. But it was a real pleasure working with you, John. Not only sitting next to you up there on the big chair, but you've got such an easy way about you that people just warm to the way you are. We will miss you dreadfully, and I do wish you all the very best for your retirement. I can't see you doing nothing, John. I mean, the first thing you did when you came here to Lichfield, you bought your own house. So, you know, there's no stopping you. So we will miss you, and I wish you all the very best of luck for the future. Thank you.
Councillor Jill Hood.
Thank you, Chairman. I've really respected the strong, respectful way that you've led this county council. And when I came here as the only independent, you very quickly wrote to me and told me where to go in a very polite way and said, this is the direction you need to go in, get in touch with these people. And I did that, and I can't tell you how grateful I was for that advice. The one thing I would like to ask you, John, you don't have to answer now, possibly on July the 7th. You very kindly mentored a young man, and I've often thought to myself, I must ask John how it turned out, you know, is he being successful? And I thought that was a fantastic thing that you did. I am going to miss you, as I know all of us will. Thank you for your years with us. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Philip White.
Thank you very much, Chair. So they say always leave them wanting more, and after 8 years, which is quite a long time for a chief executive to be in post, especially in a big local authority like this one, it's quite nice to see that apparently you are leaving us wanting more, and I'd certainly subscribe to that as well. My main point that I wanted to make was a note of personal thanks for the support that you gave me when I sort of arrived somewhat shell-shocked a couple of weeks into my time here in Cabinet. You took a considerable amount of time to sort of take me under your wing in terms of explaining the way that the council worked and always being available, but without injuring my dignity in terms of showing me how little I knew whilst I was trying to make some decisions. And I've always been really grateful for that, and I think it's something that I've seen consistently in the way that you approach people within the council, whether it's employees or whether it's elected members, and I think that's been fantastic. The other thing I will say is, although obviously being a military man, you've got tremendous discipline, the occasional lapses when your phone wasn't on silent in a meeting and the bagpipes started ringing out. I will miss enormously, especially as Councillor McMahon is no longer in Cabinet to make up for the bagpipes on his phone. So thank you enormously for everything you've done for the council, also for your help towards me, and I'll look forward to seeing what you do next as well. I'm sure it will be something equally interesting. Thank you, John.
Councillor Johnny McMahon.
The time I was closest to the action and therefore saw most of you in action was when I was in Cabinet during the pandemic. And during that time, I always found you warm, considered, calm, resourceful, and you delivered. You got things done, and you were understanding. It needed somebody of those qualities and of those skills in order to get us through the pandemic the way we did. And all of us in this room, and indeed the whole of the county, are extremely grateful for that. Thank you, John.
Councillor John Francis.
Thank you, Chairman. For the Leader's dissertation, I'll be brief. All I can say, John, is you've been a good friend to me, and you've been a great friend to this council. We've done various meetings together, and you've solved a lot of problems, and your door has always been open. So we will miss you, as Janet said. But I'm sure there'll be a few engineering jobs out there for you to go to, particularly fixing tanks.
Members, you have to excuse me just a second, because Mark Winnington, have you already spoken on this subject? Yes, I thought you had, and you've come up on the screen again, so that's fine. So, Councillor Kath Perry.
Thank you, Chairman. What can I say? I think Philip said all that he said about the selection committee. But what we saw at the selection committee, John, you actually delivered for this county. And also in my time as chairman, I want to thank you. It was during the pandemic, but for all your support that you gave to me and to Staffordshire, again, I want to thank you. And I would like to wish you all the very best in your retirement. Thank you very much indeed for all that you've done for the people of Staffordshire. Thank you.
Councillor Derek Hookfield.
Oh, is it me? Sorry.
I was far away then, John. Can I just say, John, I'm just going to put you out of your misery. I know every time I see you, you keep calling your son. I'm just telling you now, I'm not your father. I get blamed for all sorts of it. I've been blamed once for how many? 14 children, was it? Babies you were on about? 14. You know, it seems as though I get blamed for everything. Can I just say, right, to me, to take it how you've taken it, and I joke a lot, and I think within politics, right, and these sort of meetings, you've got to have a joke. You can't be too serious all the time, because people don't listen. They just nod off sleep. And when I look up there and I see your face, and the gentleman next to you, John Tradeswell, and I see that great big grin come on your face, I know you've been listening. So, to start off with, because I'm only just going to say a few words, to start off with, when they turn around and say you're retired, there's no such thing. I know. I can guarantee it, right? There's no such thing. Now you're going to start work. You don't believe it, but you do, because retirement isn't what people make out. And I tell you, every day becomes the same. There's no difference between Monday and Tuesday. Every day is the same. And time goes 3 times quicker because you aren't as occupied as what you were before. But in saying that, can I just wish you all the best of luck, right, for the rest of your lifetime. Thank you very much.
Councillor Alan White.
For those in any doubt after Councillor Huckfield's speech, John's not dead yet. John and I, as you know, have a shared history in the military, and when I was an officer cadet going through Sandhurst, John was a member of the directing staff, believe it or not. Our paths did not cross, but he was one of the very senior people that we looked up to as young officer cadets. And I arrived here at Staffordshire County Council, and after obviously several years, John arrives as our new chief executive. I'd been a major in the army, and John had been a major general in the army. So I think I go back to being the most senior former army officer in this county once you're gone, John, so yes! During the times of COVID, it felt very much like being in an operations room in Northern Ireland or anywhere else with the incident management team, and we used to go in there a couple of times a day to get updates on what was going on, and it felt like we were running a military operation. To have John alongside me during that time was absolutely superb, because we understood each other because we've been through the same training at Staff College and at Sandhurst, and therefore we were able to communicate effectively with each other, and I think that was to the benefit of those people who we were working with and for, because they knew clearly what we were trying to achieve, because one of the things you're taught in the army right from the get-go is communicate your intent clearly right from the start. John has been in public service all his working life. He's never had, I don't think, a day where you've not been serving others. And this may well be your first opportunity to have a bit of time for yourself. Now, Derek would tell you that actually, and John, that you're going to be busier than ever. And Philip's going to be contacting you about how to repair a Land Rover. But ignore them, John. Have a bit of time for yourself. I think the impact that you've had on the people that work for Staffordshire County Council has been absolutely tremendous. And you instigated the key principles of the people strategy being ambitious, courageous, and empowering. We have people now who know what we intend to achieve, and they're free to get on with it. And that's a tribute to John. We've got the confidence in the organisation to get on and get stuff done. My final point is to our personal relationship, John. I think we have become good friends over the past 3 years that I've been leader, and I've really valued your wise counsel. You're an older guy, you're a higher rank, and all that jazz from army days, but nevertheless, we have become friends, and I've really, really valued the advice that you've given to me. Whenever I get really stuck, as some will know, being leader of a council can be quite a lonely business, and sometimes if I get stuck, I can just pick up the phone to John and say, I'm stuck, what do you think? And he's able to give me the advice that I need in order to move forward. So John, thank you so much for that. I will miss you, and thanks for all your service.
With the leaders and members' indulgence, I'm going to break protocol, and I'm going to ask John to say a few words, and I don't think anybody will object to that. I think, John, I haven't primed you, but from my experience of working with you, I don't think you need priming. I think you'd be quite comfortable. So, John Henderson.
Mr. Chairman, Leader of the Council, Leader of the Opposition, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, Mr. Chairman, thank you for this unique pleasure and this unique privilege. It has been a privilege and a pleasure to serve you, and through you, the residents of Staffordshire for these past 8 years. To put it mildly, I wasn't the obvious candidate for this job. And when I applied, I put in the application and thought they might interview me out of curiosity, but that'll be about it. And so thank you very much, Kath, Philip, and Ian, who are the last members of in the chamber of the special committee that took the risk on me. But I'd also like to pay tribute, if I may, to John Taylor, to Sue Woodward, and to the late Brian Edwards, who were on the committee as well. It was not the obvious answer, as I said, and indeed across the country and the sector, the media had a field day, of course, about some general turning up in Staffordshire. But in local government, a colleague of mine applied to West Sussex about a year later, and he was told, yes, Staffordshire are conducting an interesting experiment, and we're all watching with interest to see how long it lasts and how it ends. Well, actually, you created a precedent because other councils have taken ex-service personnel at senior levels. And you know, with pretty much without exception, they've worked really well because the whole piece around public service and commitment are very, very similar. But I am incredibly grateful to you for that. One of my colleagues before I left the army said, "You'll hate it. You'll be bored stiff." Well, Paul, you were completely wrong. It has been the most interesting 8 years. And to paraphrase slightly Harold Macmillan, events, dear boy, events did get in the way, but it was the people. It is the people who've made the difference, and it's you, the members, and the officers, as well as the people in our partner organisations that have made it such an interesting time. I have a slightly twee expression I use about trying to help Staffordshire be an island of calm in a troubled sea. And my goodness, we have had some troubles over the last 8 years, but by goodness, I think we have achieved that island of calm where we've got things done. And the pandemic has been raised a number of times today and just during this piece. It was a traumatic experience for all of us, and particularly for those who lost loved ones. But as with all traumatic experiences, there are positive things that come out of them. And you just listen to the older generation talking about the Second World War, and they all say how much fun they had. And you say, how can that be? It is not dissimilar with the pandemic. And I think that in Staffordshire, with the work we did around PPE, keeping our care homes going, supporting local businesses, supporting schools, and supporting all the communities and the excellent work that the small charities did and the community groups that came together, I am very proud of what we achieved. And one of the downstream things of that is I don't believe that Staffordshire and its local government family in the 8 districts and boroughs have ever been as close or as cooperative as they are now. And I know that the recent election will change that landscape in some ways, but actually I do hope that that cooperation and cohesion will continue. One of the aspects I think that in Staffordshire we have got right is our member-officer relationships. And it's a big theme you'll see in the sector press, where people talk about having to have respectful relationships or aspiring to respectful relationships. I think in Staffordshire, we go beyond respectful. We're into supportive and encouraging. And I think that helps us be a better place as a result, getting the best from our members and the very best from our officers as we can. Alan has asked me to remain in post until my successor, Pat Flaherty, is coming in. I couldn't be happier to do so. It's one of the things from our military background is to actually conduct a proper handover and have a smooth transition. I'm very happy. I know it's not usual in local government, but it's something I'm very, very happy to do. So I will be here till the 7th of July. But one of the things I have learned from you as politicians is when to pick your time to leave. It's really important. And what I wanted to do was leave while you were asking me why I'm leaving, not when I'm leaving. I think I've achieved that. There's a lot left to do, as there always is, to be more ambitious for the county, whether that's in highways, in children's services, SEND, adult social care. But I will be staying around. My wife and I will be staying in Staffordshire. To quote Philip Atkins, it is Hotel Staffordshire. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. I wish you every success. Thank you.
That's the end of the leader statements. I move the report be received. Is that agreed? Item 8, the Code of Joint Scrutiny Working Local Authorities. Councillor Pert, will you move consideration of the report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move consideration of the report.
I have no speakers on this, so I'm happy to move on to item 9, which is... Oh, we don't need to take a vote on this. Yeah? I need to move it. My apologies. Right. I move that the report be received. Is that agreed? Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Pert, for correcting me on that one. Item 9, the annual report of the Audit and Standards Committee. Councillor Worthington, will you move consideration of the report, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would like to recommend that the Council consider the report, but before I consider it, or before you consider it, I'd like just to thank the audit team, because, as you know, we had an external audit and we got the highest rating that was possible to be given. So I'd just like to express my thanks to all the audit team at the Staffordshire County Council. They do a fantastic job for us, so please pass those messages on. Thank you.
Once again, we have no speakers. I move that the report be received. Is that agreed? Item 10, committee membership. Councillor White, can you please move the nominations of the group leaders for the appointment of members of committees? Mr. Philip White, will you second afterwards?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the appointment of chairman and vice chairman for committees and panels with a couple of amendments, please. Safeguarding Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Some eagle-eyed people have spotted that Richard Ford is no longer a councillor. And one of the joys of WhatsApp is that I've had dozens and dozens of messages during the course of this council meeting going, Richard Ford? Thought he'd left. So it's actually Paul Snape, and you knew that, and I'm delighted to report, Councillor Snape, that you're back on being Vice Chairman Scrutiny of the Safeguarding Overview and Scrutiny Committee. And, Mr. Chairman, if I might, Jill Burnett's name's incorrect. Jill got married, yay, and is now rather poshly Jill Burnett Faulkner. What? So I think I need to get a second surname to make me just as posh as Jill. Congratulations, Jill, on getting married. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I conclude.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll second that motion and reserve the right to speak if there is any.
There are no speakers on this item. I move that the proposals be noted. Is that agreed? Item 11, appointment of chairman and vice chairman of committees and panels. Councillor Alan White, will you please move your nominations for the appointment of chairman and vice chairman of committees and panels?
I've done that the wrong way round, haven't I? I've done committees and panels, chairman and vice chairman first, and then committee membership. So I'm moving committee membership this time, Mr. Chairman.
Fine.
Just to members of the council, it's always incredibly difficult to get names to committees and people to attend those committees. And I appreciate that some members look at these committee lists and go, I'm a square peg in a round hole. Help! If you do need any assistance, or if there's anything that you want to be amended, just get in touch with me and we'll see what we can do. It is difficult to find people with the appropriate skills to be on these committees, but just remember, You are representing the 880,000 people of Staffordshire on these committees, making sure that public money is well spent. It's a vital duty that you do here by attending these committees and overseeing the work of this authority. And so to that end, I will thank everybody in this chamber for the work that they do on these committees. It is tough. Hardly anybody outside this chamber knows the hard work that you do on these committees, that sometimes the grind that you have to go through to make sure things are being done well. But it's genuinely appreciated, and it also makes sure that the council tax money is spent wisely on behalf of those 880,000 people. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Philip White, will you second, please?
Thank you, Chair.
Is that agreed? Item 12, appointment of members to outside bodies. Councillor White, will you please move your nominations for the appointment of members to outside bodies?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members will be aware that we've had an audit of the outside bodies to make sure that every outside body we're attending is still relevant and indeed actually still exists. And we have found during the course of the audit some of the outside bodies we thought existed no longer exist, and so hopefully this will be as accurate as it can be. There are new entities springing up all the time. If there's somewhere in your division or in your district or borough that you think needs county council input, or you're invited as a county councillor, it could be that it's a relevant and official duty. So please do let Member and Democratic Services know, and we'll look into it. And if it becomes an official duty, you can get appointed onto it as an outside body, and that allows expenses to be paid to get you to and from in certain circumstances. So I think we got it right. Again, let's keep our eyes on it, and if there's any changes needed, Mr. Bradbury is always all ears.
Mr. Philip White, will you second? Is that agreed? Item 13, questions under Standing Order 8. Members, the 6 questions and answers have been circulated to members and published on our website. In accordance with the usual procedure, the questions and answers will be taken as read. I will allow each questioner 5 minutes in which to ask a supplementary question and to receive an answer. No debate is allowed. Question 1. Councillor Yates to Councillor Parry. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. I'm aware Councillor Parry isn't here. Just looking at paragraph 2, if people have read that, I'm glad I've been some service by bringing this to your attention. I did check it with 3 different Android phones to make sure that it was right before I went in, so I'm glad that has been resolved. What I would like to see, though, because these apps need to evolve and people really want to use them, and as Councillor Clement said earlier on, it's everybody's duty to try and report and keep on top of highways repairs especially, and I know that my staff's app does more than that. We really need to get to a situation where you can walk around as an individual and in real time and in specific real space, you can use that app, log it, and then move on. And if we can get it so that the location service links into 3 words, which effectively gives it a precise 10-metre square location, and you are clicking it straight away so there's no error in spelling, which should not be beyond the wit of app creators to actually create that link. You can actually walk around, pothole, photograph, upload, location, comment, bang, and go. And that's the situation which everybody needs to be in to do it justice and not be absolutely soul destroyed on some of these roads you walk up. And then we create the hot maps, then we've got the information, and then we get the repairs done. So let's bring this app into 2023 and beyond. Fantastic start, keep going.
Thank you, Councillor Yates. Leader, do you want to take it?
Councillor Yates, thank you for, I'm not sure it was a supplementary question, it was a supplementary point really, wasn't it? But actually it was a good idea, and I'm happy to take good ideas from wherever they come. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at how we can make that work, and if we can make it work and how we can make it, one or the other, and see if we can make those improvements that you've suggested. Thank you.
No, you can't. No, you can't, Mr. Huckfield. No, let's move on quickly. Mr. Huckfield, I've said no, so the answer is no. You can't ask a question. You can put a written question in before the next meeting, and it will be answered, and then you can ask a supplementary question, as other members have done. Question 2, Councillor Pritchard, Councillor Alan White.
No supplementary, Mr Chairman, but I would like to take the opportunity to congratulate you on your election as Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Councillor Pardesi to Councillor David Williams. I'm not sure he's here.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask Councillor Williams, in light of the extra 15 million investment and the various other things we've been told, can I now safely tell my residents that potholes will be, they can expect potholes to be fixed a lot faster than we've had up until now?
Thank you, Councillor Pardesi. That was a clear question. As Councillor David Williams is not here, Councillor Philip White's going to take the question.
Thank you very much for the supplementary question. I think the thing that you can tell the residents is that you can be more accountable for the prioritisation of what gets done in your area under the new way of working. So if they have a problem, as Councillor Clements rightly said earlier, and Councillor Yates reiterated they should report it, but if they talk to you about it, then you should be able to be more influential in terms of the prioritisation of what happens when in your patch. That, I hope, will satisfy them and give them some encouragement in terms of improved performance in your area. Thank you.
Councillor Charlotte Atkins to Councillor Jonathan Price.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. In view of the widening attainment gap between the most disadvantaged pupils and the rest, I'm a bit concerned that the County Council doesn't have a greater oversight of what's actually happening in schools. It's fine to talk about, you know, Ofsted will be picking up these issues, but by that stage, the pupils concerned will already have been let down by that school. And so do you share my concern that the County Council really should have greater oversight of what's going on? Because those disadvantaged pupils only get one chance of being able to succeed at school. And if they don't, then their future chances are blighted. So I do really think it's important that we get it right, particularly for disadvantaged pupils. Thank you.
Councillor Price.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the question. Nobody takes it more seriously than we do at this authority as the attainment gaps for our children, and I will provide you with a full written response if that's okay, Councillor Atkins.
Councillor Hussain to Councillor Tagg.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Thank you for the Cabinet Member Simon Tagg for the answer. On the reply, Mr Chairman, he mentioned a proper maintenance program should be entered into. Can I just point out and seek his attention that there are so many stakeholders in there, developers, borough councils, parish councils, and many more. So is there any chance we can find out a better coordination, and we should look after those trees, which after 1 year or few months, and there is no way that they will flourish or they will grow ahead. So I would be grateful for further strategic answer on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Thank you for the supplementary. I agree. You know, a lot of authorities, whether they are borough councils, county councils, housing associations, residents groups, as I talked about earlier at the King's coronation party up in my division of planting trees. And I think particularly the county council is looking to put a policy in place that dictates the way we plant them on highway verges, for example, as well as on our public open spaces and parks and country parks as well. So I completely agree with them. And obviously we will be sharing that when that is done. And I know with a district hat on, up in my district, we're looking to do the same there with a policy. But I think we can use the Staffordshire Sustainability Board, which has got all authorities' members on there to work together on a harmonisation of the policy. And I do appreciate the question which Mr Hussain asked a couple of months ago now relating to the number of trees that have been planted across the county. At the moment, the Sustainability Board officers are trying to coordinate that with the districts and, of course, with all the other people we just mentioned who are planting trees to give a totaliser. And I think it would be really good if we had a county-wide totaliser of trees. You know, the county council is planting thousands of trees, so are the districts and boroughs and everybody else. Let's count them up and see where we are, and we'll certainly progress that, as Mr Hussain asked a few months ago. Thank you.
And the final question, Councillor Afsar to Councillor David Williams.
Thank you, Chair. I've just got a supplementary. Having studied the claims procedure on the county's website, could I request that the background information provided in the response to my question is included within the preamble on the online claims form in an endeavour to reduce the number of non-qualifying claims, which would free officers for more constructive highways work? Thank you.
As Councillor David Williams is not here, Councillor Philip White, are you okay taking that question?
Thank you very much. As the other Councillor White said a little earlier, we're happy to take good suggestions from wherever they stem. That seems like a good suggestion to me, so we'll look at that and see if we can include some more information on the website. Thank you.
Moving on to item 14, which is petitions. Do we have any petitions? Councillor Winnington. Will you wish to talk, Councillor Winnington?
Just 2 minutes.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is a petition following a site meeting I had at Monk's Walk in Nosal, and they were concerned about getting emergency access to their properties. And basically, the nub of it is they think, and I agree with them, there's a narrow bit of road with a curve on that people park, that should have double yellow lines on. So there's a petition here from the residents that are affected. Thank you.
Members, thank you for your patience on what has been quite a long day, hasn't it? Can I also take the point on my first meeting of thanking the officers? Certainly the technology did its best to create more than a few problems, but the two people in front of me have worked tirelessly to try and give me some indication as to who want to speak. That has been fabulous. Thank you so much, and please enjoy the rest of your afternoon and evening, and we'll see you all very shortly. Thank you.